Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
All right, we've had 24 hours to sort of
bring it down,
relax and exhale. I know I have. I hope everybody on the panel has.
I'm cool as the other side of the pillow, guys.
We haven't heard from Mike yet, so we're going to get his
I decided to do
thoughts.
all, like my podcast this morning.
Yeah.
Taking people inside the room a little bit. I actually recorded it last night. Which I usually do it in the morning, but I had 2 doctor's appointments.
It's still your thoughts.
It's still my thoughts, so I did it last night.
Not much changed last night.
But I spent about 24 of the 30 minutes on the Guardians, baby.
Good for you.
I hope there's a lot of people that watch it because it's all Guardians. I did a little Browns at the end.
I mean, here we go again. We're going to dive into the Browns and leave the Guardians on the side of the road, unfortunately. We're going to talk about them later in the show.
We will get to them later.
They're starting what is, I think everybody would agree, the biggest series of the year for them. They're at Chicago.
Just don't get swept.
Chicago has, you can argue that Chicago has favorable pitching matchups for the series. I think they do.
Definitely today.
And I think
game 2 is pretty close.
2 is close, but
3 is edge Guardians.
Yeah, because it's Shane Bieber.
But tonight is a huge edge for the White Sox.
Yeah, it is big. I don't expect a win tonight. We'll talk about that later in the program.
Just don't get swept.
A little bit of business to take care of before we dive into our Browns talk. Leroy Hoard is going to join us. He hasn't gotten his chance to vent about yesterday's game.
How do we know he's not going to be really upbeat and positive?
Well, I was texting with Leroy during the game. That's how.
Yeah.
Now,
you know, guys, I saw a lot of good moves there. Really,
he might be positive now, but during the meltdown, we had some interesting text exchange.
Sure.
I'll save that for Leroy. Aditi's going to join us. She, of course, was on the sidelines. She might be able to give us player insight. What in the world was going on that sideline during that minute 55 of nuclear meltdown? And then we're starting something new. We've had Jen Matthews on the show. She's the daughter of Clay Matthews. She's going to start a new segment. It's not going to be weekly. It's going to be every other week. Bi-monthly. It's Browns Trivia. And it's going to be centered around games from the past between the Steelers, this week's opponent, and the Browns. So that'll be a lot of fun. We're going to test our collective Browns-Steelers
We're going to team up to see if we can get the answers.
We're going to just give her one answer collectively. So we have to.
These questions are very difficult.
So Mikey said these are probably going to be big swings and misses for us.
Jason went 1 and 4.
You know what? G. Bush is out, neck issue.
Yeah, he's having some neck pain.
If nothing against you, Brad. G. Bush is a savant.
When it comes to
when
that
I
stuff,
talk to that guy about games, he'll tell you in 2007.
His memory.
Play sequences in downs.
He remembers everything with the Browns games.
Whereas I was at that Browns game and I don't remember any of it. Just so you know. So good luck, guys. I hope to help out this team a lot.
We're drinking.
Yeah.
Well, that affects the memory, doesn't it? In the meantime, what we've done so far through the first 2 games is we focus on the first day of the new week. First of all, our Monday is our reaction to the game. Then on Tuesday, we always say how the Browns offense will match up against the opponent's defense. And this week, obviously, the Steelers' defense is without their motor. TJ Watt is out with the pec tear. It looks like he's going to miss perhaps 6 weeks. He He's going to try to make a go of it after he sits and rests. But we heard from DeQuell Jackson last week, who had 2 pec tears. Mm-hmm. The first play he came back from 6 weeks of rest after his initial pec tear, he completely tore it off the bone.
Right.
Very difficult injury to play through.
Yeah.
You know, T.J. Watt at times has seemed superhuman. We'll see what he can do. But we know that he's not going to be on the field Thursday night, which I think is a huge advantage for the Cleveland Browns because he is the hub to their universe when it comes to defense. Before we do that, though, because you weren't here yesterday, Mike, I want to hear your thoughts in the nutshell on what we witnessed on Sunday. Sure. Many are calling it one of the worst. Jim Donovan said last night on his recap show that it was the worst loss that he's witnessed.
By the way, before you go, Mike, real quick, because Jim Donovan deserves a shout-out.
Oh, he was great yesterday.
That 90-second rant he did on the Myles Garrett comments, one of the best things I've heard. If you missed it, go back.
Still trending this morning.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Jim hit a home run.
First of all, Jim's the best, period. And I'm not saying that because I work with him. I've said that long before I ever knew Jim Donovan.
Yeah.
He's the best at his craft, both play-by-play and as a local sports guy.
You want to talk about
like a
savant about stuff. Watching him after the game, speak just off the top of his head and remember each play throughout every quarter. And I know that he's been doing it a long time, obviously. Well, and then to deliver it with insight throughout and do that for a 5-minute post-game thing, and I'm just in awe of that.
He'll go back to games played in 2007.
Yep.
Yeah.
And say, this reminds me of the Patriots game in 07.
Right.
And you're just like, wow.
Yeah.
Total encyclopedia.
Yeah, well, he's got another one. He's got another one to remember from now to reference back to in years to come.
Is he
and
right?
be like, this is like that game. Well, yeah, I mean, it was terrible. I was there. Actually, I had a great Cleveland sports experience this weekend. Perfect dichotomy. I was at the 15-inning Guardians game, and I stayed through the whole thing.
Look at you.
Yeah, I know. So that was a late night on
Steph
Saturday.
told me about that yesterday.
Let me tell you, the end of that game, first of all, they never stopped selling beer, which I thought was questionable, but I appreciated it. They did. You know how normally in the 7th inning, they're just like, but I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was a loophole. I don't know if they just said, you know what, we're not going to do this to these people. But they never shut it down and through 15 innings. And let me tell you, about 1 o'clock in the morning, the people who were willing to stay for a 15
How many were left?
It was very sparse, but it looked like a Greyhound station at 2 a.m. It really did. It was because
they were selling beer,
and there were just people looking around, just like, anyone want to fight or make love?
Funny.
That's what everybody looked like they were thinking.
That's funny.
At that point. So, but I went to that.
Say
I'm glad you stayed.
But we had that experience. We got to watch one of Cleveland's teams dig down deep and refuse to lose. And then the next day we got to go and see a team just refuse to win.
What a dichotomy.
I mean, that was a hell of a weekend, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
And it was something else. So I actually sent this out. We left after they went up their second score.
Oh, you left?
Yes, we left.
Wait, you stayed 15 innings at a baseball game,
Yes.
but left with 2 minutes
We
left
were
in a
up 2
football
touchdowns,
game.
and I didn't want to walk in amongst that cattle, and I was still very hungover. So I wanted to get out. When was the last time you guys walked out among the commoners on the way out of the game?
It's awful.
And it's not any better when it's 90 degrees and everybody's been drinking.
It is slightly better, though, after a win.
Of course. So
it
you're
had to
thinking
be
it's a win,
miserable.
but I still want to get to my car in a win without, and everybody's been hammered. They're all, it was gross. So I want to get out.
Yeah.
So we're getting out, and we're leaving. Take a picture. The picture is of me holding up 2 because we just won our second 2 in a row.
No.
So it's me going like, now it's a peace sign.
Yeah.
Obviously, moving forward,
Sure.
that's what it'll be known as. So I'm just like, and then we didn't post that. I didn't post it until later, But then we're walking back to the station where I parked at. And on the way out, it's just there's still a crowd of people, all the dads trying to get out a little early like me. And it's like upbeat, and then you feel the vibe change. It was like in a zombie movie where the virus starts spreading around a crowd of people, and everybody's just like, oh my, they're like, hey, they just scored. It was like, oh, just our luck. And at first it's kind of funny, then everybody's like, no, this is, there it is. There you go, everybody. So that's us.
So that's with the knowledge.
That is thinking that we just won our second game in a row.
Okay.
That's right when we walked out of the building. Okay. So, anyways, then everybody realizes it, and I swear, I'm telling you guys, I've been through so many of these that I was just like, I'm on my way out, and I'm just like, well, that is an interesting way to lose a football game. I got nothing left. I got nothing left. As far as being furious about these things, I've just been through too many of them.
I laughed.
Yeah,
At the end of the
I did.
game, I literally audibly laughed for about 20 seconds.
But I'm glad that I'm not somebody who's like just really killing myself over this anymore. I remember those feelings, and I just don't have that kind of evil in me anymore. I spit it all out. Oof. But it was. I'm glad I was there. I really am. It was like a really illustrative weekend from a Cleveland sports perspective. And but we're gonna bounce back. I'm being a positive Browns fan. Kings of the North. We're the top of the division, you guys. Top of the division.
We still are.
Number 1. That's what I'm saying.
We still are.
Technically, no. I think the Steelers at the moment have the tiebreaker.
Yeah, I guess that's true. All right, fair.
Buzzkill.
I know. Just got to do that, don't you?
They've won a division game.
They won a division game.
But we're in the wild card hunt.
But you control
haven't
your
played
destiny.
one.
Browns still control their own destiny.
If they win, they're in first place.
That's right.
And
They are.
that's all that matters.
That's it.
All right, Mike, I'm glad you shared that. It was in typical Mike Polk fashion.
That's how it
was
went.
humorous
Yes.
while making you want to cry all at the same time.
Yes, that's
great
what I bring to the table.
Well, that's a skill, and you do it as well as anybody I know. All right, Browns offense. Bull,
Yeah.
you dive in first. Much of what we saw against the Jets, heavy dose of run. How do they attack?
The first thing I want to say is, I don't think the Steelers are a very good football team. But then
Right.
again, I didn't think the Jets were a very good football team. I still don't think the Jets are a very good football team. And the Browns, as you said, found a way to lose. I do think, normally I would say you want to throw the ball against the Steelers because I think their secondary outside of Minka Fitzpatrick stinks.
Right.
They don't have any corners that are standout players. They really have nobody or not much in their back seven that stand out besides Minka Fitzpatrick. However, even though Jacoby Brissett had a good game last week, this team still needs to run to win games.
Yeah.
Right now. That's how they play, and that's their strength, and they have to stick with it. The Steelers have been a tough team to run on. I don't believe they're as tough now. They haven't played great. You know, here's the thing, too. The Patriots have some issues on their offensive line. The Bengals have 4 new starters on the offensive line. Yeah. I think I underrated how much time that was going to take for them to come around, and the Steelers took advantage of that. The Browns don't have that problem. The Browns' offensive line has been stellar in the first 2 games. They have had no problem run blocking. They've had no problem pass blocking. There's been great protection. I think the Steelers will struggle to get pressure, and if they don't get pressure, the Steelers thrive on pressure. When they don't get pressure, I don't think man-to-man they're that good defensively. And so I think the Browns can be balanced, but ultimately, even though the Steelers traditionally are good against the run, same game plan for me. It worked last week.
I'm with you.
Keep running the rock with Chubb and Hunt as much as possible.
And when you do throw it, distribute it. Get it around equally. I thought they got Njoku involved early.
Right.
Then he became the invisible man.
And then it was Cooper and nothing else.
DPJ.
Yeah.
On the side of a milk carton. Anthony Schwartz, I don't know. David Bell, 1 catch.
Yeah.
Got rocked.
Right.
And that was it. I mean, outside of Amari Cooper, the passing game really was pretty non-existent.
No, in fact, in our not best bets, our prop bets that Mikey sent us, I kind of have a feeling it is going to be. They're going to look for more balance. My guess is nobody has a huge game in the passing game, and that a bunch of guys this week kind of are in the middle, and that Nick Chubb has the big game again this week.
You agree with all that, Mike?
I do, except I do think that we're it's a tricky situation because I agree. What you say there is we have to stick to the run, rely on the run. That's how we've gotten here. Mm-hmm. And then we're like, but I'd like to see Njoku get more involved. I'd like to see Harrison Bryant get a couple of touches. I'd like to see him spread it out to Donovan Peoples-Jones more. I do feel like we have to make some choices, obviously, and I think you're right to lean into the run. I think next week it'll just be probably lopsided in a different way. Maybe Amari Cooper doesn't get as many hits. I think there will always be somebody that he uses in that way and gets comfortable with throughout the game. And then a bunch of people are going to get lost, and that just happens in most of these games. I do love that we're taking Pittsburgh on at this point. You said yourself, against Cincinnati, had 7 sacks on him? That's insane. Yeah. And then last week they had 0. I mean, that tells you something, but they still got Cam Hayward. They still got, you still have to worry about, obviously, Micah Fitzpatrick has interception in each game. So, he has a harder time when they can't get pressure on the quarterback.
Right.
Obviously.
When they don't get pressure, they're not that good. Without T.J. Watt, they are, to me, just an average defense.
But we always have the Browns-Steelers factor. Again, we can look at all these numbers that we break down every single week, and we saw what it came down to at the end of that game for the Browns game is all those numbers at the end of the day went off the page. And it became about which team kept their act together and figured out how to win the game. And in a Thursday night matchup on a short week between the Browns after they're coming off of that, anything goes, and I don't know how it's going to work out.
And to your point, like last week, it shouldn't have been about this because the Jets have no culture or coaching success either, just like the Browns.
Yep.
But the Steelers, at least they have culture and coaching success.
They do.
They have that to hang their hats on.
And they're not afraid to come in here and pull out a victory. They've done it many times.
What'd you see, Mr. Mayor?
Well, thank you. So let me jump in here, right? Because first of all, this is not Oprah, right? You get a car, it's not that. The Browns' offense is predicated on one thing: running the ball and running it hard, right? Mm-hmm. I don't care that Cam Hayward can play, right? Mm-hmm. He can straight out play, right? And they're gonna be here to meet the challenge because Cleveland and Pittsburgh, that's what they do, right? But we don't run away from what happens typically with us sometimes. Our bread and butter, if somebody starts stopping, we go to something else. Well, we're not built like that. You're going to keep running it, and then I tell you what, when we spread the ball around, I see you have to keep Amari Cooper involved. I see him with a high number of targets.
You do?
I do, because he's your best receiver, right? And then, but you do have to sprinkle in DPJ. He has to be involved.
Right.
And Njoku has to be involved, right? We cannot be forgetting it. And I think
he had a bad drop Sunday.
Sunday, what happens is, though, they try to overcompensate for the first game because they didn't find Amari Cooper.
So they forced it to
him. So they kept forcing it to Amari Cooper, And he was making the catches, but you limit everything else.
Yeah. Well, I didn't think they forced it to him. I mean, he had 10 targets, caught 9 passes.
No,
so they were all good.
A lot of those, he was covered. He ran great routes to get a little separation.
They went out their way to find Cooper.
Which they should, because he's their best pass catcher.
But they're making up for the first week where they didn't see him, right? And so what I will tell you is, with the Browns, the way they set up here, Brissett, he seems to lock in on certain things, and he can't break off of it, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to need you to spread it around here. And the other thing is, I tell you, and I like Stefanski, right? I give him make some jokes like call him Little Einstein. But listen, don't overthink this. Many of your coaches done it. You have Hunt and Chubb, right? Hunt and Chubb. Just keep Hunt and Chubb. Just keep doing that, pounding, sprinkling everybody else. But it's Hunt and Chubb. Yeah. But I tell you what I don't want to see again, this. Do not leave Hunt on the sideline for like he was missing in action.
Right.
Right. You have two people. Use them at the same time.
Yeah, I don't know why he went. They used it so like they still ran the ball well, but I agree. There was like 3 series in a row they didn't use Kareem Hunt at all,
and they never used them together that I remember.
Right, I don't think they did. If they did, it was maybe 1 or 2 plays, but none of us remember it.
No,
you did it a bunch of times. It worked. Why would it not work against the Jets? I don't. Why would you not do it at all?
And
I don't
understand. Thing I say this, Bull, is this. Here's the story. We're just trying to survive. We're trying to survive 11 games, right? I don't care how we do it, right? Maybe it's unconventional that we use them at the same. I don't care, right? But what we cannot do is come back after 11 games and be under 500. We cannot.
The season's over.
We cannot do that.
If Watson comes back and they're 5-6,
I
don't see how they climb out of that
I'm going to be really
hole.
ticked here, right? Because you guys talk about you're over. I'm still not over, right? I hate bad losses. They stick with you, and they should stick with you in your soul if you're a player. And what I did not like yesterday was this. It didn't seem to stick with anybody in their soul.
Yeah.
I like what Joel Bitonio said. Joel Bitonio basically, I thought, was the voice of the fans when he said, look, we got booed, but as badly as the fans are hurting right now, we're hurting more.
No disrespect to Joel Bitonio, right? But you need your lead dogs to be the ones.
Yeah, well, as we said yesterday, who the hell are they?
Well, he is the lead dog on that offensive line at this point.
On the line he is,
for sure. When it comes to winning games, making plays down the stretch.
Right, sure. There's got to be other guys.
Nobody steps up. I'm glad he tries. I'm glad he tries. The rally of the blind, the one-eyed man.
No, you're right. I would say that'd be fine for them to rally around him.
It made me think about my own playing days, right? I remember we played a game against Milwaukee, and I'm inbounding the ball in the final seconds against Milwaukee, and I throw the ball away, right? So Terry Cummings steals the ball on my inbound pass. And I get in the locker room, Doug Collins jumps all over me.
Did it cost you the game?
And it cost us the game.
Okay.
And he said, you threw a soft pass. And I was like, I did not throw a soft pass. I didn't do it. Stop lying. I didn't do that. And then because I was just defending for myself because I knew what had happened.
So you were defensive.
Right.
Was it a soft pass?
Very much so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very much so. I didn't see him coming.
Sometimes in the moment, that's hard to hear.
I didn't see him coming, right? Yeah. And Terry stepped right in and took it, right? So when Denzel was talking about, it wasn't me. Yes, it was.
Right.
You see the tape?
Yeah.
It's okay. I want you to say, my bad. Next time it won't be me.
Well, so yesterday we didn't hear from Myles Garrett. And here's something that I'm really going to be looking for today. Because yesterday they had limited availability to players. They had some Zoom opportunities. Today, the reporters will get to go into the locker room, and it'll be open locker room. I'm curious. Myles took it hard yesterday from the fans. Jim Donovan, I thought, was the absolute perfect tone. It was measured. It was well thought out.
Right.
But it was right on the money. I'm curious today to see if he stands in front of the microphones and reels that back a little bit.
Yeah, well, somebody's got to ask him about it.
Oh, it'll be the first question he's asked.
Right, I mean, he's got,
it better be.
It better be.
I mean, sometimes
they let you down.
No, I know, but this better be the first question is asked.
Yes.
You've had more than 24 hours now, or at that point it won't. It'll be almost 48 hours.
Yeah.
To think about your post-game comments.
Right.
Obviously, players say things in the heat of the moment. Sometimes it's unfair that 10 minutes after the game, there's a hot mic in your face.
Right.
Yeah.
The fans didn't like what you said.
Right.
Do you still feel that way? And I hope he pulls it back.
And I'll say this, and I give some deference because they're young, right? I'll say it on, and people say, why are you being so soft? I'm not being soft. They're young. They don't know. And Myles, who is new to Cleveland, basically.
Not anymore.
But I'm just saying here, the history of what. If you've been here like us, right? There's some history here. Right?
Yeah,
you can't dispute. You can't dispute.
But 5 years that's a long time to.
But I'll say this, just stay with me on Jay. Denzel is different. Denzel's from here.
Yeah, that's true.
He's seen it, right?
Good point.
If you grew up a football fan, you know he had to see it.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So I don't expect you to be on this other rant over here like, it wasn't me. Yes, it was. Because the people just wanted you to know, right? You have to understand, you deflated a country of Browns fans, not just the Cleveland fans.
Yep.
It was across the country. right? Because we're always defending this place.
We were the butt of the joke again.
We right back here again.
He's right.
And
And
as
as far
right
as
back here again.
Like, as far as Myles Garrett's concerned, he's like, we were in the playoffs 2 years ago. Before that, we were kind of bad. He's like, last year was a rough year. For him, he's like, we haven't been that bad. He wasn't here for those.
Right.
No. He wasn't here for those.
That doesn't
38,
mean anything to
but
him.
Right. But you're right. Ward was. He at least saw that he saw the fan experience. So he can't claim that same ignorance.
You couldn't be a Cleveland fan or Ohio State Buckeye and not know what it means to be a Buckeye or a Brown in this
He
time.
might not have been a Browns fan.
But
you're aware of Browns.
But he was aware.
He saw
Yeah.
our misery.
and not be unaware of this.
He heard the frustration.
Right.
He saw
And if he
everything.
wasn't a Browns fan, that may have been why he wasn't.
Right.
Right.
And well, you know what? And the thing is, Jim, and we've talked about what Jim said yesterday, and he made the point of saying that players kind of want this one-sided relationship with the fans. Like the fans have to laud them with praise all the time and cannot complain about anything. And that's how the players I think act quite often when it comes to fans and with media. Like I've said this before, I could say 100 good things about a player on Twitter or on the air. You say one bad thing and I'm a piece of crap.
Yeah, that's the way
It doesn't matter. And I know I'm harsher than most, and sometimes I go too far. But still, like if I'm I've said a million good things about Myles Garrett. Yesterday I criticized him on Twitter. I wouldn't be surprised if I don't even know if he knows who I am. Well, I do know he knows who I am. But the point, I'm not trying to say I'm some big shot or anything. I'm just saying, like, he might get pissed about that when I've lauded him 100, 500 times.
Yeah.
So you got to take the good with the bad.
And that was Jim's point.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
you didn't see what Jim said, he basically said, you want to be in a one-way relationship.
Right.
Where you get all the adulation,
Right.
and you get all the cheers, and you get all the love, and you don't want anything to do with the criticism and the boos. And this is a package deal.
Right.
You know, that's how it goes, especially here in Cleveland. That's why I do think that Myles is a smart enough guy and thoughtful enough to he's reflected on those comments for the last 48 hours.
Yeah.
He's heard them over and over again in his head. I think in his heart he knows, even if he believes them.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
He has to know he needed to keep that in
I
here.
think he will.
How about not just in his heart, just from a PR standpoint?
Right,
Do you think even if he's like, still in my heart, I believe that I'm in the right here and I shouldn't have been booed. But just from I'm getting my ass kicked on Twitter right now for this, and they care about that stuff. And he might be like, I will make this statement just to make this be quiet.
Yeah.
You're right.
Sometimes when you're young, you don't know just to hold it in, right? And to your point see, I would tell you this. Hell, ain't nobody been booed more than me. I'm going to tell you that, right? I done caught the good side and the bad side. And the heat you catch in this town is nothing like the heat in Chicago. I mean, it's real heat. Yeah. I mean, it's deep down heat. Coming to get your family heat, right? That's what kind of heat you getting, right? And so you got to stand there and survive it. And some of the people to the athletic side, to the athlete side, I'm going to tell you that some people out here at Bull are jerks. They're just jerks.
Yeah.
The people writing, talking, they're just jerks, right? Now, if you got something constructive to say, I hear you out. But when I'm 24, 23, I can't hear you at all because I'm thinking that you just against me from the beginning.
Especially when you're a professional athlete, good enough to become a professional athlete, which means you've only been receiving praise throughout your entire life. That's the other thing.
Especially nowadays, everybody's shooting your ass.
The other thing, if you care about your craft, you don't want to be criticized in your craft, right? Because it says, you weren't good today. What you mean I wasn't good today?
Right.
I care about this crap. No, you wasn't good today.
Mike, I know you want us to get back to the Steelers. We all agree. I mean, the way you attack this Steelers defense, because I didn't weigh in yet. You guys did. I'm with you. You go to the playbook folder and you open up the rings to the 3-ring binder and you pull out the game plan against the Jets. And then you go back to the game plan against the Panthers and the one page that said, we're going to use Hunt and Chubb on the field at the same time.
Yeah.
You add that to the playbook.
And let's go.
And you put it in under the Steelers game plan.
Right.
You close the binder, you give it to the players, and you say,
don't overthink it.
We're going to do this well because we've done it all well already.
Let me ask you.
Tomorrow is going to be the discussion on the defense. Because tomorrow we'll dive into how the Browns defense should play against the Steelers offense. That's where it's going to be an interesting conversation because one thing we never mentioned yesterday, if the Browns can't figure out how to communicate at home, wait until they're on the road in a hostile crowd and they can't hear each other.
And wait until they're on the road. I know this is a while down the road. You think the crowd's going to be hostile now. Wait till Deshaun Watson's playing.
Let me go there because that brings me up to this thing. I'm thinking about the infrastructure. There was a time management problem in that game.
Yes.
Is that going to get addressed here between now and Thursday? Because I
It's
tell you,
better.
Stefanski owned that yesterday in his comments with the media.
But why?
He did.
Owned it.
Why is that his job? Shouldn't he have someone doing
it's
that
the
for him?
person in the second
Well,
chair.
whatever. But that
That's their
person,
job.
fine. But that ultimately he's responsible.
Yes, I'm not saying he's not.
The head guy going to take the fall all
Right.
the time.
thing.
Right. He's not going to come say Joe Schmo, my number 2
No,
here.
but
it's
I'm
his
saying
fault,
the infrastructure is being
I'm
placed.
sure that is there.
There was a
And
breakdown.
and there was a breakdown.
You know
yeah.
what though? To that point about the infrastructure, and there was a breakdown. Here's my question: when the head coach is the offensive coordinator,
That's another problem.
he's got 2 oars in the water.
Yes, he does.
He's and he can't focus just on one.
That's right.
If he were the CEO,
Yes.
and had a 30,000 feet view as the CEO, while the offensive coordinator was putting all of his brain power into what do we want to do here.
Yes.
Stefanski can do exactly like we were doing at home.
Looking
Yes.
at the clock.
And say,
Yeah.
okay, they need 10 yards for a first down, 12 for a touchdown.
many
There's a
timeouts?
2-yard zone there where if we go down there, the math is going to, the game is
It's over. And even before that, how Kareem Hunt's running out of bounds.
Oh, that was the first time that was
you know.
inexplicable.
Yeah.
I mean, is this
The second
really,
time it was hard. It would have been very hard. He was fighting to get the first down.
True.
He got pushed out of bounds. It would have been impossible for him to
But
stay
the
in
first
bounds.
time, he could have
The first
easily.
time was totally
Yeah.
on him.
Yes.
And that goes back to my point. He's calling the plays, and he's also got the
Yes.
view from
And
30,000
this
feet
team
above.
has
Now,
a
yes, Alex Van Pelt, as the offensive coordinator, could have said, "Yo, Kev,
Yeah.
Yo.
you might want to think about something
Right.
here."
Yep.
If
But
we
Alex
go
Van
down,
Pelt is still doing. He's not doing head coach duties. He's doing offensive coordinator duties.
So is the head
and so
coach,
they don't
though.
have really the head coach doing head coach duties. And
Thank
that's
you.
the problem. It's
Thank
being
you.
split.
And
yeah.
is he so scared of just saying this is the game plan, handing it over to him essentially? Does he think he's going to lose? Like, he's going to
Yeah.
Alex Van Pelt's
No,
going to say,
he-
that's not what we're running, coach.
Mike,
Right.
He's the head coach.
Mike,
Right.
he hasn't made the transition because, in my other job I can't do everything.
Right.
Although I know I can do a lot, I said, but if I try to do everything, something's going to get diminished.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Of course.
have to trust you
Yeah.
and you
delegate.
to do it. I have to.
Yeah.
Right?
Good-
And he has not learned
No.
to
Good
do
leadership.
You're
that.
right.
You know, to his defense, his background was offense, obviously.
Right.
And it's understandable that he would think I'm the smartest offensive man in the room here.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we've had 2 years and 2 games of a body of work to look at it, let's face it, this offense is dripping with weapons.
It is.
Dripping with weapons.
Last year,
and you
too.
go back to last year when OBJ and
last
and
year had
Jarvis
even more
and
last
Jarvis
year.
Landry
Jarvis,
were here.
yeah.
Well, for 2 seasons
Yes.
here. Now I give you that he had a lot of injuries along the way in COVID.
Sure.
But at what point has anyone in this room said, "This guy's the next Andy Reid"?
No.
I mean, there were flashes of it in that 2020 season.
And that's
But-
hard. We don't often say that with young coaches, or it was McVay, and
Right.
and he.
But-
But you're right. I mean, there's never been like the first year we were like, this guy's doing a really good job. He's smart, but we weren't blown away by his offensive prowess and creativity.
And to the
it's
degree
gone
that we
downhill
were,
since.
because there were some that were.
Yeah.
But then 2021 just knocked that shine off
Right.
real quick.
And it's continued this year.
And
And we were all excited about week 1 because they were creative with using the 2 backs for the first time. We were
Right.
all calling for it. And then it disappears in week 2, which was really disappointing.
Well, let me tell you, it's awful hard running the company and being the worker too.
You're right.
You cannot do both.
Yeah.
You
Smart
might think
people, hire good people, and trust them to do their job.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. Alex Van Pelt is an experienced NFL coordinator.
Absolutely.
He could absolutely handle that job. And I just think it goes to guys, I think it goes to the fact that this team has a general lack of awareness. Right? Like, you can't coach awareness. Like,
As a franchise or the rostered players or what?
I
What do you mean?
think, well, as a franchise, but
Yeah.
certainly on the field, coaching staff and players, like in terms of like the breakdowns defensively,
Right.
in terms of the clock management that we saw,
Yeah.
in terms of running out of bounds, in terms of somebody not knowing that, hey, Nick Chubb's got to take the knee.
Mm-hmm.
And it shouldn't have to be Nick Chubb. It should be somebody on the coaching staff.
So if you're sitting there as the head coach doing only head coaching duties, right? It comes down to this. Do I trust you, Alex Van Pelt, to run
Yes,
this thing?
and there's no reason he shouldn't.
So I trust you. Joe Worcester, I trust you.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing head coaching jobs.
Right.
I'm going to you when I see the defensive
Exactly.
breakdown, Joe,
And as Mike said, he's still the head coach. If Alex Van Pelt calls a play that he doesn't like, he can overrule it.
He's not going to be like, oh, shucks, lost that battle. I'm the head coach.
There's a reason that there is a structure and a hierarchy in the NFL that the flow chart everywhere is offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, head coach. The head coach isn't calling the defensive plays and it's not calling the offensive plays. And there's a reason.
I mean, they are in some cases, and certainly Andy Reid is, but he's got a ton of experience.
Yeah, but I'm not even sure Andy Reid calls every play.
Yeah,
I mean,
you have to trust your hires. You hired these people.
Right.
They work for you.
And the funny thing is, Bill Belichick hasn't called the plays. There's been stretches of time in New England where he's not calling the offensive plays.
No.
And he's had a myriad.
No, defense. He's
Well, defense is his thing.
Yeah.
And I would want Bill Belichick calling my defensive plays. That's what I said. I don't think anybody's looking at Stefanski and would ever say if he gave it up, why isn't this genius not calling plays anymore? We needed more of that. I think, hand it off, see how it goes. Don't let this run you out of town like it did Marty Schottenheimer.
No, right. The problem,
you can be a great head coach, but I'm not sure you can be a great head coach and a great offensive coordinator and play caller at the same time.
Real quick, Justice. It's uncomfortable for him to let go of the lead.
Some of these young coaches.
Grow up.
Yeah, exactly. Get over yourself.
Leroy Hoard, welcome to the program.
Grow up.
Where are you? Coming up on 48 hours after the debacle. How you doing?
Real quick on what you guys were talking about. You have to understand that the reason why he got that job is because he's offensive coordinator.
Sure.
So there's a lot of and understand the structure that goes, how it goes from week to week. You may very well have an offensive coordinator during the week, but that offensive coordinator doesn't necessarily call the plays. You understand what I'm saying? And sometimes it has to do with the communication of the coach calling the play in to the quarterback. So just because he is calling the plays doesn't mean he's doing the brunt of the offensive work. Now, I will say this, that part of the problem with him having both jobs is this, and this is what I found on Sunday. If you didn't watch the game and you went and looked at all the numbers and all the keys to what you would think a team has to win the game, the Browns did that. Mm-hmm. Every single aspect of it, from running the football, from third down efficiency, time of possession, all these things. But here's what happens. Sometimes you get a big lead and you give up a big play. And you're like, don't worry about it. That's okay. We still have a nice lead. Then you make a mistake. And then they score again. What Kevin Stefanski needs to be, and what people need to be as leaders on that team, is somebody that rights the ship. Somebody that gets everybody back into what they were doing to get that big lead. Because the issues that transpired to let the Jets back into that game were a combination of a bunch of small mistakes that ended up being catastrophic. Right? I watched this show called, and I hate flying, but I fly a lot, and I hate it. But I watched this show called Mayday Air Disaster.
Probably not a good idea.
Why would you watch
flying?
Inflate movie?
Because I am always curious as to what makes things go wrong.
Right.
And sometimes with these planes, it's the maintenance guy rushing in forgetting to tighten a screw. And over a period of time, something falls off and causes the plane to drop. Something as simple as that.
Right.
And so when I watched this game on Sunday, I just kind of got the feeling that it got to a point where nobody was doing the little things. Nobody was doing, Brad, when you're down by 20, your coach would never tell you to go score more points. He would say, stop the other team.
Yeah, lock them. Yep.
They don't worry about the points. You see what I'm saying? And so I think that they need a voice to focus them on the things when they go south that matter.
This has been a consistent
You see what I mean?
problem.
Instead of trying to do everything,
Yeah.
focus on small things that you've been doing well and get your guys to get after this area. And then it'll trickle to everything else being fixed.
So you'd be
But
in
they
favor
look
of
like
him
they
then?
were trying to fix everything.
But Leroy, this has been a consistent problem since Kevin Stefanski has been here. The Browns have had the best talent they've had in a long time under these 3 years. And yet, this has been a consistent issue. Even in games they've won. Even in a playoff game against the Steelers that they
get
won.
Close.
They
get close.
they make you hold your breath at the end. It happens all the time. That's, when it's happening all the time. If it happens once or twice, okay, it's an anomaly. But when it's consistently happening, there's a core issue. You're talking about it, but they haven't been able to fix it. So how do they do it?
It's kind of a mindset, because you don't realize when that stink get on you. and I'll use basketball. When you miss 3 shots in a row, you don't know you getting ready to go 0 for 20. It just kind of happens, and you look back and go, wow, I haven't made a shot in a while. And I think that sometimes when things start going wrong, instead of focusing on one aspect of it,
the micro.
you try to fix everything.
Yeah.
And it makes it worse.
It's like whack-a-mole.
Right. Exactly.
So
whereas
Leroy, do you then?
you have to learn, they have to learn that the bigger issue is usually a result of a smaller one. And if you fix the smaller issue, it will then affect the rest of everything else that's going wrong.
So should he give up the play calling and be that guy that is more macro and let the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator immerse themselves in the micro? Because you're right, I felt like the bus was going off the cliff and nobody was grabbing the wheel.
Right. Here's what I would say about that. I don't necessarily know what their preparation is during the week. So sometimes calling plays is not, you're not putting in all that work all week, but you have coaches meetings and you discuss what's going to be run under certain circumstances. So everybody pretty much has an idea. Just because he's calling the plays is not important. But here's what is important is that if your team needs more TLC and needs to be focused on these areas that we talked about, right? And you need to periodically huddle everybody and get them pointing in the right direction. Let's just do this. For example, when you're making a comeback, you know what they say? They don't say, let's go score in this drive. Let's get a first down.
Sure.
Let's get another first down.
Baby steps.
And it builds, and you start going downhill. That's what the team needs. And if him calling plays takes away from that, then it becomes a problem.
It's a problem.
But who's calling the plays is not, because here, when I was in Minnesota, Brian Billick was the offensive coordinator, right? But periodically, I definitely hear Denny push that offensive button and say, let's go, let's take a shot.
Right.
So it's not like he's not going to have hands-on.
No, he's CEO.
And it's basically just a voice calling the plays that everybody already knows that's coming. When you practice during the week and you practice certain situations, everybody on the field has an idea of what's coming. So him calling the plays is not a big deal. But there are times during the course of a game where if you don't have a player, you need the coach to be that voice. everybody settle down. We're good. Okay? Here's what we're going to do. Okay? We're going to put a little bit more pressure on them. Force Joe Flacco to make quicker decisions. Okay? We're going to, D-line, we need you to pick up the pace. We need you to pick it up a little bit.
They did
Okay? Offensively, hey, we're going to continue to run the ball. We're having success. We're not going to put ourselves in a situation where we can go 3 and out. And you send this message throughout your team, and then everybody refocuses.
Right.
And I think that when you watch the game and you watch things going south, you know every NFL team's going to put forth that final charge. Everybody. That's football. You're going to go no huddle. You're going to open it up. You're going to have your quarterback slinging it all over the place because you got a 2-touchdown lead. You ain't playing as aggressive. You don't want to give up the big play. But you're still going to need that voice, that somebody to come in and either, one, calm everybody down, because I bet you there was, when that 70-yard touchdown came, I bet you everybody on the field was pissed off too.
So Leroy, this is where I'm gonna jump in on, because you're making great points. I think we said that yesterday. Let me ask you a question. You're in Michigan. I'm assuming it was both Jim Beckler, right? When things got south, he was the one saying, "This is the deal," right? If I'm in Columbus, it is Urban Meyer, it is Tressel, it is those the guys that say Woody Hayes. This is the deal.
Yeah.
So when we got down the stretch yesterday, and this thing, because once we missed the field goal, I mean, it was the extra point. The door to the window opened up, and everybody in the building started feeling like, here comes the mess.
Oh, here we go.
Right. So we have been there before. My thing is, I want you to tell me, because the one thing that's unexcusable to me is the clock management down the stretch, because you could have basically run the clock out here. Now, who was supposed to tell him what was going on? Because it was very clear that nobody out there knew the time and clock situation. It was clear. Not Jacoby.
Guess what?
Not Stefanski.
Right.
Nobody.
Right. Let me tell you, Brad, everybody at some point in their life have to eat some humble pie, right? We got all these offensive gurus in the NFL, and they always want to be the smartest guy on the field, right? You think we're going to do this? Well, we're going to do this, right? We're going to change it up. But there comes a point in time in football where everything has been decided for you and determined for you as far as how you close out the game. You know, we had this thing, and you hear it on TV all the time. 4-minute offense. 4-minute offense. Close out the game. 2 first downs. You ain't getting it throwing. We run 4-minute offense. We running it. If we don't get it, it's going to be the 2-minute warning. The only thing you can do to make matters worse is on 1st or 2nd down, throw one of those little short passes that is incomplete.
Stop the clock.
I don't care if you throw a bomb. If you go over the top, I would be happier that you took a shot because everybody was up near the line of scrimmage. But they all do this. All these offensive gurus, at the end of a game, they try to throw a safe damn pass, and it ends up being incomplete. So not only didn't you complete the 2-yard pass, but the clock is stopped. Eat some humble pie. You know how football is played. You know what needs to happen in these moments. Don't get caught up in how you want to look. Just do what is necessary to win. And I think at the end of that game, and let's keep in mind, here's the other thing that really, really gets me. You ain't got bums running the football. Okay? You ain't got bums running the football. You got 2 of the best backs in the NFL. They are your 2 best offensive players. If I'm going out with my Michael Jordan and my Kobe. I ain't going out with another dude. And that's just how it has to be. You have to be aware of your circumstances. And it's too many times during a football game. It happened in the New England game. I mean, not in New England, but in the first game. Carolina. Right? Because guess what? At the end of that game, we were all looking at that TV like, oh no, Baker's going to do it. Because you opened up a window. You tried to be too cute. Mm-hmm. If I'm going out, if I'm a Cleveland Brown and I'm going out with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. End of discussion. And the fact that that didn't happen, win or lose, those dudes have proven that they're probably the most dependable guys making something happen in those situations than anybody you got on the field.
Hey, Leroy.
So I don't care if you put them both in the backfield,
Yeah.
you do something crazy, you spice it up a little bit, but guess who's going to end up with the football? Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. End of the story.
And that's got to be the case again this week. Let's look ahead to Steeler week. Thursday night football, short week here. Game's 2 days away. Do you think, like, when I'm sure when you played it was, but, like, obviously for the most part, the Steelers have kicked the Browns' ass for the last, since they've been back in '99, right?
Oh, no, it was true when I was there, too.
Yeah, okay. Right. But so is there extra hatred or whatever you want to call it, anger, being fired up when you play the Steelers, or is it truly just one game, doesn't matter if it's what team it is?
Oh, no. The hell are you talking about? Of course it matters.
What do you mean what I'm talking about?
It's the Steelers.
There's players who try to I don't think that's the case. There's players who try to downplay it
But
all
they ain't
the time.
gonna tell you. They ain't gonna tell you.
So you're saying they're full of crap?
Like even when I played against them, I was like, oh yeah, they're a good football team.
Yeah.
They're the benchmark of this division. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say to you.
What are you saying in the locker room? We
got to get this. I'm tired of this.
Yeah.
So, but here's the deal. Pretty much.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. The way Cleveland plays football isn't going to change. The better the team, the better you need to be at it. As simple as that. That's not going to change. But, the fact of the matter is when you get to those crunch moments in the game, and I'm going to just be honest with you, okay? Here's how it works in football. Just like it works in any other sport, right? If you're in the ninth inning and you getting ready to win a World Series, who you want on the mound? Mario Rivera, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
If you playing basketball and you need one shot or one bucket, who you want?
Jordan.
LeBron. You want LeBron, Kobe, and Jordan.
I'd take Steve Kerr, but okay.
If we getting to the end of the game and we need 4-minute offense, who do I want with the ball in their hands? Jacoby Brissett, Nick Chubb, or Kareem Hunt?
Yeah.
Period.
Pretty obvious.
It doesn't change. Yeah. Don't outsmart. Like Brad, how many times you see coaches outsmart themselves?
Oh my God.
It is the single-handed most nerve-wracking thing, especially if you on the team. So, I don't know if Kevin Stefanski needs to trust somebody to make the calls and he needs to be an overall, oversee everything, because then he can have his hands on everything to some extent.
Yep.
Because I've also heard Denny go into that mic and say, hey, let's get some more pressure on this guy. He's sitting back there drinking coffee. I've heard that. That's what the head coach does.
That's what he does.
The head coach has an overall vision
Yes, it is.
of what is going on.
Yep.
He gets a feel for what's going on, and then he gets his troops, his men, going in the right direction. Now, it doesn't mean he can't do that as an offensive coordinator. But here's what's different. When Andy Reid doesn't call plays anymore. It's Bieniemy. But when he used to call plays, the quarterback coach or the offensive coordinator or Bieniemy would always be talking to Patrick Mahomes on the sideline. He wasn't going to talk to the offensive team. He was still doing his head coaching duties. You see what I mean?
That's interesting.
So I think one of the things that Kevin Stefanski needs to learn, and it's hard. It is hard to give up something. Here's the hardest thing in the world to do in life. Your future in your current profession depending on somebody else.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Think about that.
I gotta trust you.
Let's not make it sound like it's so easy. When the reason, like you see some of the circumstances that got him that job. So he has to, at some point, read the room, get an idea of where he's needed the most, trust the other people that he hired, and kind of, it's going to make the game plan better. You know why? Because they're going to talk about it over and over again about different situations, circumstances, because Kevin Stefanski will make sure that everybody's on the same page he's on. If he's going to relinquish that power, you're going to talk and you're going to think like him.
Mm-hmm.
Leroy, here's the important question.
At some point, he's got to do it.
Leroy, here's the important question. What did you think about the dopey fake dogs they had? We just saw it in the video as the guys are running out. Did you guys see that during the game?
I didn't like it. Yeah.
Did you see it, Leroy?
If you take that shot of Brissett getting ready to come on the field again, Leroy can see it.
That we just played.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, we got to fast forward. Give us 1 second.
Not nearly as unforgivable being at the game as the elf animations that were on the scoreboard, where they tried to have a fierce-looking elf like come out after
Were they bad?
spiked the ball, and he had like a scowl on. And I'm not an elf hater. I'm really not, I don't care. But making it come out as a little cartoon and like celebrate was just beyond the pale, and I didn't care for that. It was bad. Leroy,
Man, you guys.
Can we get some real dogs?
You know what?
Can we get some Rottweilers running? I don't know, what is this?
Oh no,
That is horrible.
Yeah.
Leroy,
He
if
kinda
you were
looks
ready
like
to
Jacoby.
come out of the locker room and you saw that fake dog, what would you do? Would you
He
be
said
angry?
it kind of looks like Jacoby.
Look, they gotta look like.
Oh
Hey,
my God!
I can tell you what.
Like Jacoby. Oh my God!
They're like,
Leroy, you crazy.
hey, I want the Browns to be good enough where we don't need props.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care about
Right,
the props,
like-
Leroy.
Ideally, yep.
Who,
I
can I ask you
ain't
a
looking at
question?
cartoons.
Who the hell are you entertaining
Right.
by putting a cartoon gnome on the screen or a fake dog?
I just want
Who
you
you
to
entertaining?
I
Least
just want
Is
intimidating
anybody
thing
in
I've
that
ever seen.
stand?
Leroy, I just want you to be smash somebody in the mouth.
Right.
That's all I want.
Right. Yeah, you know what? If you want, then walk out some real dogs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Walk out
saying.
some real dogs.
Well, they usually have them.
Well, they did that.
Yeah, but they have little wimpy
had
dogs.
s-
We need like
they
a
had-
Rottweiler.
they had
We need a
Swagger.
pit bull. Let's get him out there killing people.
Swagger was.
Well, no, Swagger has since passed on.
Yeah,
So
but then
that dog,
Swagger
we made that
too.
dog watch some of the worst football ever, and then it died.
Swagger
It
was like a
thank you.
turtle for crying out loud.
Now-
He barely moved.
Now Swagger's son is there being punished, or at
Yeah.
least like a little
Animal
Swagger.
Group
Looks like
Hey,
it's kind of a badass dog.
I'm not
is
a
he?
big
Yeah.
I'm not a big props guy. You know what I mean? I just think, you know,
Who would have guessed that, Leroy? I would have guessed you were a big prop guy.
Well, we're one of the only
Can I
teams that
just say
doesn't have
this?
cheerleaders.
Let's
I
get
mean,
some
a lot of-
you know
cheerleaders,
what?
Leroy, for crying out loud.
can I say this?
You say it.
Here's what kills me about where we are in the world today. Because, and I'm going to put this word on it, and I'm going to call it corporate,
Okay.
right? And corporate sits in a room
Thinking of things.
without asking anybody involved
Oh, yeah.
and determine what the people will like.
Well
And
said, Leroy.
so many times I've gone into a business establishment and they've said corporate thinks it would be best. I'm like, I'm that person and it sucks. flags.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
You're
Leroy,
100%. I say it all the
told
time.
the story about handing out the white flags.
That's
before
right.
The Steelers game.
The Browns were going to hand that. Yes.
And DeQuell went to Jimmy and D and said, "This is the dumbest
That's so
idea I've ever
stupid.
heard. Why are you gonna give
Why you white flags?
They were going to
That
get a
means
white
you
flag.
surrender.
I remember
They
that.
printed them all up and they were ready to go. It was in the program that they were going to hand them out. They wanted, it was a play on the Steelers' yellow towels. So they gave everybody white
White
towels.
means you surrender.
Yes.
And well, to Jimmy and D's credit, once it was brought to their attention by DeQuell, they were like, well, that is kind of a dumb idea.
Universal signal for surrender across the
Instead-
world.
Flag.
And instead, what they did, it was a great idea. Instead, what they did was give them to all the truckers they ripped off. Allegedly. By the way, I say this all the time, Leroy, when it comes to sports, when it comes to media, whenever the suits get involved, things go to hell. Suits ruin everything.
It's because guess what? There is no interaction with the people they think they know what's best for.
That's right. We're losing our minds here.
We're losing it over his trucker comment.
They had a
Like-
Pilot Flying J new kiosk at the stadium, just so you know, where you can actually get like as if you know how you want the convenience of eating gas station food,
Right.
But more expensive in a
Yeah, they
stadium
purposely
setting.
don't clean the bathrooms.
And, But I was really looking. I was looking at it, and I'm just like, man, I hope nobody's trying to get any like coupons out of that place or anything like that. So that's another. Allegedly.
Is
Let me
there
tell
really
you.
a Flying
Can-
J?
can
There
I
is.
just
There's a
tell
Pilot
you-
Flying J.
Pilot Flying J. Come on there.
Rest
Hey,
stop.
Michael.
I lived in Tennessee. They called it just Flying J back in Tennessee.
Called a Flying J.
Oh my goodness.
Has anybody
in
ever
Tennessee?
eaten gas station food earlier than 2:00 in the morning after being out?
Yeah, no,
I
there's
mean,
Does
is a
Wawa
pig's-
count?
Is a pig's ass pork there, Leroy? I mean, what's going on here?
Read the room.
Regroup.
No, actually,
regroup.
in all honesty, obviously I love to eat, but I don't eat gas station food.
No.
we
I
have
don't.
to go to
No.
what the internet is saying, but before we let you go, Leroy, I have one question back on the football thing. You mentioned
Sure.
that there was, that Stefanski wasn't grabbing the wheel and keeping this thing from going off the cliff. We don't know. We haven't been in that huddle. We haven't been in an NFL
Right.
locker room in that setting. I also think, because I've seen it with my own eyes, that oftentimes that voice doesn't always have to be the coach. If you were with the Ravens,
Yeah.
Ray Lewis doesn't let that bus get to the curb. Where is the leadership on this team? I'm waiting for someone to step up on offense. I'm waiting for someone to step up on defense and be that rah-rah guy. And I just don't see it. Is that a bigger problem?
When
or
I
is that-
say When I say Kevin Stefanski, I'm merely saying that because of the conversation.
Okay.
But it could be anybody,
Right.
right? Like it has to be somebody who is respected in the locker room
Credibility.
and somebody that means business.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yep.
And so from that standpoint, it doesn't necessarily have to be Kevin Stefanski. But I will say this.
Who do you think it would be, Leroy? Who do you think?
It's got to be Myles Garrett. It should be Myles Garrett, but he's not leading that way.
I don't
necessarily.
see, and you got to be careful
Yeah.
doing the offense-defense thing,
Yeah.
right? Because it has to be somebody that's respected with everybody, right? But you have, if that was the case, you just have one or two captains. But if you notice, they do a couple on defense, a couple on offense. So I don't know if it needs to be one of those guys. I don't know who it needs to be.
It needs to be
But-
somebody.
It just seemed like there's been a couple of moments in the last 2 weeks where a regroup was necessary.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Where everybody needs to calm down, let's do what we do, and get out of Dodge. Right? And it almost seemed like it just that situation just kept getting progressively worse. To where now you weren't getting any pressure on the quarterback. You got Joe Flacco throwing it all over the place. You got receivers running wide ass open. You can't get a first down on offense because you're trying to be too cute. Add all that together, and it's a comeback. And
Yeah,
you
you're
don't
right.
somebody and this is what I'm saying by this. Somebody has to acknowledge and understand what is going on and do something to stop it, either by past experiences, either by somebody who has the ear of everybody, but there's got to be somebody in the organization when you see bad play after bad play after bad play after misstep after this. You see, because guess what? I'll give you a perfect example. If we were in a 4-minute offense and Bill Belichick sent in one of those little short passes, Bernie would have said, oh no. Leroy, let's go. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why he got released.
They bumped heads a lot.
Yeah.
But it's not, they didn't bump heads because neither guy wanted to lose or either guy wanted to see the other guy fail. They bumped heads because Bernie could evaluate a situation and do what it took to win that play, that series, that game.
Amen.
And Bill was a structural guy. He felt that the more people he had going in the right direction, eventually it would work out. And it's proven. You look at New England right now. Everybody says the same right thing. Everybody does the same thing on the football field. It's very structured. And that's why they bumped heads. It had nothing to do with personalities. It had nothing to do with did they like each other. No, it just had to do with Bernie could go onto a football field, evaluate what was going on, tweak a play in the huddle on the third baseline, because that's where we were on that damn baseball field, right? And it would work. And we would watch film and go over the script as far as what play was called, and it was never the play that was called. So we spent half our time on Mondays, usually after a win, explaining what was really going on. That drove Bill crazy.
Great stuff, Leroy.
Yeah, Leroy, awesome, man. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the game
right.
Thursday. Hopefully we're talking about a Browns victory when we next talk.
Thanks, Leroy.
All right, Leroy.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
That's a great point that he brings up about Bernie, because Bernie
Was a
was
football
not
savant.
He
was
was,
also-
and he was usually right.
And he was a leader. That's the thing. I mean, that's what I watched the show yesterday. I actually listened to the show, which was a different experience, especially when you guys are just reacting to GIFs while I'm listening to a podcast. And I'm like, oh, I bet that one was funny. So that was a good experience. But no, you guys are talking about a lack of leadership, and that's really what it felt like. There was nobody who stepped up in that locker room. I would kill to have somebody like that.
Well, he said something clear, too, because there's checks and balances here. So when that play came in from the sideline, Jacoby could have said, because you're a leader. Now, I don't care if it's only for 11 games. You're a leader here.
Yeah.
You're like, wait a minute, hold on.
He could have said, oh, by the way, this is the play call.
Wait.
Fall down on the one if you get the opportunity.
Right.
Yep. Where was that guy?
Yeah.
What's up, Mikey?
We got to do what the internet says real quick before we get to Aditi, and this we'll run through it quickly. But as always, when we bring you what the internet says, it's brought to us by PCC Airfoils.
Oh,
Looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits? PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio.
Yes, they are.
All locations of PCC Airfoils in Eastlake, Mentor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up, plus full benefit packages, paid time off, and signing bonuses. Apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more.
PCC is such a lonely word. That's for you, Steve. All Billy Joel from now on, baby.
Wow, we're going all Joel. All right.
The greatest.
He's been doing it for a while, and
Yeah.
Steve took a shot at him yesterday in the text chat.
All
saying,
Billy Joel.
Is it only Billy Joel? Is that all you know?
Yeah. Best.
He's a New Yorker.
Maybe I'll throw you a little Huey Lewis on the news next
So
time.
we're going to run through this in less than 90 seconds so we can get to Aditi. But
Okay, great.
the question we asked the internet was on Steelers Hate Week, who's your least favorite Steeler of all time?
Ooh. Don't make me pick.
A lot of similar answers, but let's get to the first one here, Anthony. This from Joe. It's Ben, and it's not close. Second,
Lambert.
Joey Porter, cheap shot artist.
I hate Joey.
And third,
Yeah.
Mike Polk. This is right up your alley. That's like deciding what to eat at Long John Silver's. It doesn't matter. They all leave a bad taste in your mouth.
All right, don't disgrace hush puppies like that, but I understand what you're saying. That's a good point.
Those are obvious choices, but there are so many others.
Hines
Me
Ward
and
was
Joe
the other
Green,
one that had a lot of
Hines Ward,
Lambert.
James Harrison,
Terry Bradshaw.
Terry Bradshaw.
Yep.
You can't hate Lynn Swan. He's just too nice a guy.
Someone put Jerome Bettis. I didn't know anyone hated Jerome
Nah,
Bettis.
Jerome's too nice.
What is James Harrison doing right now? Can we bring him in as like some kind of a coach to scare the hell out of these 22-year-old kids?
He went to Kent State, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring him in.
I would say Harrison, Joey Porter, Bradshaw, and Ben are all in my top 5.
Yeah.
Speaking of bringing people in, let's
Yeah.
bring in Aditi, who was on the sideline for Sunday's, whatever you want to call that.
Antonio
last couple
Brown, I
months.
hate him too. Aditi.
Aditi, we're talking about
Aditi.
Steelers
That we hate.
You can
Aditi. Who's
go
your-
ahead.
Who's the top
I've
5
gotta get
Steelers
off
you
the
hate?
phone. I have to get off the phone. Can I call you back?
Yo,
My
go
show
ahead.
just started. Sorry, guys.
Tell them
We're doing top 5.
Kevin
Sorry, you were
Stefanski.
doing
Kevin
so many
Stefanski
things.
was
I
on her
like,
other
I'll just
phone in
finish
case.
my phone conversation.
Let me ask you a
And
question.
then I didn't
What-
hear Mikey say he was coming to me.
Was that Kevin Stefanski on the phone trying to decide if they should run out of bounds or take a knee? Like
Okay.
for the smartest guy in the room, he's got to get a clue. He's got to get a clue.
Adam.
Yeah.
Adam.
Yeah.
You're up 2 touchdowns with 2 minutes to go. You really thinking that you're going to cough up that lead?
Of course not, but it doesn't matter. If they're the smartest team and analytics is what they do, they should know that if you take a knee, the game's over. 100%. Just because
I don't
it's
even think. Look, we saw this
That's
a
his
year
job
ago.
to think that,
Baker
Aditi.
Mayfield told Nick Chubb to do it, and Nick Chubb runs out at the 1-yard line, and gamblers everywhere are devastated.
Who cares
against
about
the
gamblers?
Texans
F those
and all
people.
of that. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't even think that entered their mind. It was
Well, that-
such a slugfest. I mean, when I tell you that game, it just, the first week came down to a 58-yard field goal, which was kind of crazy because the Browns had dominated that game. That's not at all what this game was. It's like there was not a moment to kind of sit and breathe easy in any way. This was, you heard Joe Flacco tell me after the game that it was just like all game long, every single snap was a battle in some ways. I think that to sit here and scapegoat Nick Chubb is just absurd and
blaming Nick
ridiculous.
Chubb.
That's not
No,
what
no,
we're
no,
doing
no.
now.
This
I'm not blaming Nick Chubb. I'm blaming Stefanski.
This is not scapegoating. And
Obviously, listen, it's mostly on the defense. The defense was disgusting. They were embarrassing. They were horrible in this entire game, not just at the end, particularly horrible at the end. But yes, Kevin Stefanski, he's the head coach. He needs to know if we get a first down, we take a knee, we win the game. I know it's unusual. I know teams don't do it, but let's be ahead of the curve and be smart. Nick Chubb did it a couple of years ago in a game, and it was smart.
Okay, I mean, it's a
how I see
point.
it.
It's fair. But you know what I'm really curious about that I still
Yeah.
haven't gotten an answer on? What was the snap on the PAT and what was the hold? Not the snap, but the hold. What was the hold on the PAT? For as money as Cade York is, how does he miss that extra point?
Aditi, I was
And
going to ask you
Was there
that.
a piece of the operation that didn't go well?
So I was going to ask you that because that was a big piece of the game that got lost in the overall picture.
Yes. Yeah.
From my view, which was the television camera, to me, there was someone that came in almost unblocked from the left side, which would be the camera left or TV left. And to me, it looked like he was going to block that kick if Cade York split the uprights. So Cade, and I don't know, I was hoping somebody had asked him after the game. It looked to me like, and he would be intimately aware of him because he can see him coming. It looked to me like he went for the right upright to kick it on a trajectory where the guy coming in clean wouldn't have an opportunity to block the kick. That's just my take. I'm wondering what anybody else saw and if that was even discussed after the game. Because it looked like
the
going
angle
to
that
be
I
blocked.
had, obviously, because I was on the sideline, I didn't see that piece of it. I didn't see a replay of it, the way the game went, and it was so fast. I do know that, as you know, in the booth is Jay Feely, who's the expert of all things kicking and special teams related. And he had told us before week 1 that there's some very interesting statistics about Bojorquez as the holder for kickers before he was their holder and after he was their holder. And that prompted me to very specifically ask Kevin Stefanski about the holding job that Bojorquez has done, just because Jay Feely brought that to my attention, that's just as much a part of missed kicks as anything. So I'm just saying that the fact that Cade York, who's as money as they come, missed a extra point, there's probably something more there too. And to the entire game, it's not just the miscommunication on the secondary. It's not just Kevin Stefanski thinking to tell his offense, hey, maybe we don't want to score here if you get down to the 1-yard line. It's not just it's a series of, what's that book?
Yes.
It's a series of unfortunate circumstances.
There is.
And at the end of the day, it's just never putting away a team that fought so hard.
I do think it's unfair to say he's as money as they come. It's only his second game in the NFL. I mean, he was great in college, but that doesn't matter. We think he's going to be his money, but you're right. It was in the end. an incredible 6 or 7 like insane plays that had to go against them for this to happen. But here's my general issue.
But that's what football is. Can I just interrupt for a second?
Yeah,
That's exactly what football is. I mean, how many coaches have you heard say it's a fine line between winning and losing, or it comes down to 3 plays? You just never know which those 3 plays are. I mean, Mike Tomlin tried to do that this week, saying, oh, if Cam Sutton doesn't drop this interception, and if Gunnar Olszewski, or I don't even know if I'm saying his name right, sorry, if he doesn't muff that punt, if these 3 things don't happen, he's like, oh, we beat the Patriots. Okay, well, those 3 things happened and you didn't beat the Patriots. So what do you want to, I mean, that's what the game is.
But here's the thing, you're right, 100%. It's not college football. NFL games, they're mostly close, unless you're the Bills right now, or just the first 2 weeks are just killing everybody. That game was ridiculous yesterday. But anyway, my beef with Kevin Stefanski, and I have mostly been pro Kevin Stefanski, and I still am. I don't want him fired. I'm not being a lunatic, anything like that. But here's my problem with Kevin Stefanski right now as I look at his whole time here in Cleveland. Because, first of all, I'm not going to compare him to the coaches before him because he's had good talent here, and the coaches before him in Cleveland had no talent. So that's not fair to put him up on a pedestal because these other coaches had no talent. But my problem with Kevin Stefanski is so many games have either been lost late or have been made close late because it seems like they take their foot off the gas or they don't have that killer instinct. And when you look at, like, I like that Kevin, for the most part, that Kevin is kind of, he's chill, right? He's not screaming and yelling any of that stuff. But if he's not going to do that, they need to have somebody that does. Because Myles Garrett is mild-mannered, and Anthony Walker is mild-mannered, and Denzel Ward is mild-mannered, and Nick Chubb is mild. Like, can I have one guy that's going to grab everybody by the face mask and say, straighten the bleep out here? We need to have one guy like
I have
that,
to tell you, actually, there was a penalty late, and I did see Kevin Stefanski actually lose his mind. I saw him get really angry, and I made him note of it. I should pull out my notebook. I actually wrote it down because I was like, oh, my God, like, that's emotion right there. That's anger.
Right.
I think that, you know what, you talk about putting your foot on the gas.
Yeah.
If you take out those 2 minutes, the offense did put its foot on the gas. Look at what the Browns did ultimately score at the end of the game. Look at what they did produce in that fourth quarter. So they weren't suddenly getting.
But the defense always lets up at the end.
Not to lose.
The Browns always suck I'm sorry, Didi. The Browns always suck fourth quarter defense. Their fourth quarter defense stinks. It happened last
I mean, look, to me, this is just the most obvious stupid thing. I tweeted this yesterday, and it's funny because it's what Jesse Bates told me a year ago. Jesse Bates, of course, from the Bengals secondary, and the secondary was playing so well. And Jesse said, it's about communicating and over-communicating. And he openly said to me, he said, if you don't see us talking back there, we're in trouble. And this Brown secondary has spent the entire camp talking about how well they know each other. And even though Grant Delpit didn't start last year, he played so much. And these guys are on the same page. And they have such great chemistry. And they know each other so well. And blah, blah, blah. It's almost as if they took a little bit for granted when really it takes, 3 seconds to say, okay, guys, this is what we're doing. Okay, guys, right? Like, just say it. Even if you think it's the most obvious thing, just say it and make sure. And I think that lesson has been learned. I also think it's interesting because, I asked Joe Flacco this. I asked him on Saturday. I said, after they gave up those 2 big pass plays, did you see something that you think they're vulnerable to, that they're susceptible to? Flacco just gave me kind of this smile. And then after the game, I said, hey, I asked you this. You smiled at me. And he said, yeah, we saw what we wanted to see.
I mean, to Joe Flacco, Joe Flacco!
Aditi, you know this Steelers team better than almost anybody, and that's a gift for us right now because we can just straight up ask you. They're dinged up. TJ Watt's out. They went from having 7 sacks in the first game to 0 sacks in the second game. First of all, how's that affecting the team? And secondly, how do you approach this Steelers team right now if you are the Browns? What are their weak spots? How do you attack them right out of the gate?
So make your points count, obviously. Make your drives count. I think starting the game and scoring and starting the game hot and keeping your foot on the gas and all of those same cliches, they matter because this Steelers offense has, I don't know what to say about it other than it's been putrid. It's not establishing, it's not enforcing its will on anybody. It's not establishing the run game. They're not making any tough catches across the middle. They're only throwing outside. They're throwing short of the first down marker constantly. George Pickens, who may just be the best receiver in this entire draft class, hasn't even been used, has barely been targeted. Look at what another rookie, Garrett Wilson, just did in his second game, and it's as if the Steelers forgot that they have George Pickens on their roster. So
Awesome.
the Steelers haven't opened anything up yet, and I can tell you this, in Pittsburgh right now, people are screaming for offensive coordinator Matt Canada's head. And a year ago, we were moaning about this offense, and we thought that it was just the limitations of 38-year-old Ben Roethlisberger, who didn't have time to throw behind an awful offensive line and could only dump balls off. But now you've got Mitch Trubisky, who absolutely can move, who could get on the move, who can roll out, and he's still doing the same thing, throwing short of the first down marker. So
he's not any good.
This isn't a high-flying offense.
No.
So impose your will, and the defense just clean up that communication stuff.
So
I mean, I don't look. The Steelers didn't have a single sack this past weekend. I was on the radio in Pittsburgh yesterday, and I said, in some ways, that's almost more alarming. This is a team that has the highest paid defense in the NFL. This is a defense that has game breakers all over it. It's not just TJ Watt, it's Cam Hayward and Minkah Fitzpatrick, and they, feel so strongly about that being their calling card. And you don't sack Mac Jones once. You don't sack an offense that Greg Bedard went on. Greg Bedard has covered the Patriots for 20 years. He went on the radio in Pittsburgh last week, and he said he has never seen a worse offense, a more inept offense in those 20 years of covering the Patriots than this one. And the Steelers couldn't get home even once. And I think also lost in all of this is that outside that final interception, Jacoby Brissett had a really good game.
Great game.
He spread the ball around well. Amari Cooper got going. Nobody could cover Amari Cooper, and that was the case week one too. But Amari Cooper's production week one was almost in drawing those penalties. He had 101 yards, 9 catches, looked so great. He and Brissett clearly on the same page. Nick Chubb doing Nick Chubb things, getting hotter just as the game goes on, and Kareem Hunt once again proving that he could be a starter, as Adam says, on just about 20, 25 teams in the NFL.
Yeah, there's no doubt. So,
I mean, this is an offense that did indeed play well and needs to continue doing what it's doing. And the defense needs to clean it. The defense talked a lot about how after finishing top 5 a year ago, the goal this year is to be a number 1 defense. And there's a lot of talk of the goal is to be a number 1 defense. And we think we have the pieces to do it. And we know each other so well. And we're all back in the system. Okay, we'll do the simple things.
Well,
the talk is good. Do the simple things. Communicate and over-communicate.
Let me tell you so that, and I agree with you. The Pittsburgh Steelers obviously have their woes, but it is of no concern of us over here because we have ours right now. And I will tell you that as a player, the one thing that counts in the locker room is this accountability, right? So when we get to the game, the clock management, that solely falls on the coaches. It does. Somebody has to manage the game, right? Period. Right, and then the other thing, when it doesn't happen, in this business, you have to hold people accountable. I asked Leroy that question. I did not get the answer I wanted. Who is holding people accountable over there, right? Because if there's no accountability, then you can, by squinting your eyes, you think I did a hell of a job today. Yes, I did, when you sucked, right? And then the problem here is that, Aditi, everybody here saw it. And then they went on the defensive rant yesterday that wasn't me. I didn't do it. Right?
Denzel Ward.
Everybody said that.
Myles
right?
Garrett blaming yelling at fans.
It's okay to have a bad day, right? But don't sit up here and tell me you didn't have a bad day when we all saw you did, right?
Yeah, but so let me say a few things.
Who is holding that accountable?
Okay, let me say a few things here. One, this is classic frustration. This is this nonsense that you hear in a losing locker room. Okay, or in a locker room that has just lost. It's the same in Pittsburgh. You had people questioning what they're doing offensively. You had Mitch Trubisky and Deontay Johnson and, all this there was bickering in the huddle and et cetera. So this is classic, what you're seeing there. What I will say is there is indeed accountability in that building. Why did Perion Winfrey not get a hat? And why was Perion Winfrey not practicing? From what I believe to be true, or from what I've been told, it's really not a big deal at all. But that's what accountability looks like, because every little thing matters. So what's happening inside the building is not necessarily what's being seen publicly. And that's the third thing I'll say. One of the coolest parts of this job as a sideline reporter is that you really learn so much more than you ever knew before. part of that is the honesty that you get out of players and coaches in production meetings, things that they tell you to inform your broadcast so you don't say wrong things, and that you perhaps may not use, but that gives you context about a variety of things. And part of that is actually standing behind the bench during the game and actually seeing what a coach says to a player or what a player says to a player. Now, some of that you can't ever report, you can't ever publicly say. But 2 games into this role, the feeling that I have is, my goodness, there is so much you don't know as an outside reporter. Like, you think you know, you think that you have your finger on the pulse of things, but holy cow, is there a lot that you don't actually know. So just because publicly, would I like to have seen Denzel Ward say something different yesterday? Yes, of course. Would I have liked Myles Garrett to say something differently? Of course. But just because that's what's being said outside doesn't necessarily mean that's what's happening inside the building, inside those meetings. And the other thing I would say is that it's very easy to point to somebody and say, this person shouldn't have done this. Jacoby Brissett shouldn't have spiked the ball at the end of the Panthers game like that. Okay, but there was something else that happened there that I'm not privy to tell you to explain why he was forced to do that. And even though Jacoby would have been the GOAT, had that GOAT, not as in greatest of all time, but the GOAT would have been the scapegoat.
Yeah.
Had that not gone the Browns' way, he completely was not at fault on that play.
You're right.
It's just the reality. We don't know everything.
That's very true, Aditi. And I think anybody that's covered the sport knows that there are situations that are completely, in reality, completely different than what the perception was, and even sometimes what the players will publicly acknowledge to the media. But here's a question that I have for you that I'm sure they're asking this question over in Berea today, trying to figure this out. In the preseason game against Philly, you had a world-class runner, sprinter, get behind the defense, and you're like, okay, it's preseason, it's not a big deal, right? Then in Carolina, we saw that happen on multiple occasions where there were clear breakdowns. You don't even have to be inside the locker room or know what the play call was. You just know something went wrong, whether it was a player or the wrong hand signal or whatever. There were missed coverages, particularly in the fourth quarter. This is their trademark now. It's happened in back-to-back games. They've allowed 17 points. And then again on Sunday, we saw it. Just inexplicable lapses in either judgment or communication or whatever. And then Denzel yesterday brought up the green sticker issue. Explain to fans what he was talking about, what's going on there, and are they perhaps going to change their process, because clearly this isn't a one-off. Once is a problem, or once can happen, twice is a problem, but 3 times is a trend. We're in the trend area. We're in the trend area. What's going on internally, either with the green sticker or with the hand signals? How are they fixing that in your view?
I don't know how, but I think they are fixing. That's the point. I think that all of this is being addressed right now, and good or bad, they have such a short turnaround. So there's not a lot of time to stew. There's only time to do. So obviously, to your point, I completely agree. There are issues that need to be addressed. It's not a one-off. It's not, okay, that was just one brain fart, let's let it go. It's now a trend. It is now an issue, and it is something that needs to be addressed.
We just saw
that
this week.
We just saw that tweet.
Yeah, fine.
Did you see those numbers?
5 blown coverages.
5 blown coverages
200 yards,
for
more
over
than
200
any other
yards.
team.
The next closest team has 2 blown coverages for 79 yards. That's a 5-alarm blaze.
They have a problem.
That's not a spark.
Yeah, it's got to be fixed immediately.
And that's the reason that they lost on Sunday. Clearly, it's
fortunately
that, you know what?
It's
not. That's not news to them. Joe Woods was very, very aware of that. And in fact, in our Friday meeting, he made a point of saying, look, against the Panthers, we only gave up 261 yards or whatever it is, 260 yards. And 200 of them, I think it was actually 202 of them, came on 5 plays. And then he said there were 2 pass plays that were 120 yards, so almost 121, something like that. Almost
but that's
half
like
of the
saying,
total
other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you like the play?
So he knew it. He was aware of it. But again, maybe just his players were, you love to say that you learn from a win. The best place to learn is from a win. But sometimes you need to lose to learn, to actually get it in your head, to actually have it stick, to actually have it say, you know what, we can't take this for granted, or this is hubris, or whatever it is.
Right.
So, again, I mean, I think, look, this game Thursday, it's like when the ship isn't sailing right, what better than to face your rival? What better than to face a division foe? What better than to do it on the massive stage of Thursday night? And Amazon has turned it into an even bigger stage. You want to hear something crazy? I was told that Amazon asked for 350 credentials. Jay Feely was telling me that the last time CBS had a Super Bowl, CBS was doing the Super Bowl and asked for 100 credentials. Wow. And supposedly Amazon, for this Thursday game, is credentialing 3 times that number. That's
4K.
how big
And the
the
game's in
Amazon
4K.
TNF production is.
It's
No,
amazing.
it's nuts. They did a
What
great
game you got
job.
this
They
week,
did a
real
great
quick,
job.
before you go?
First one out of the box.
What'd you say?
What game you got real quick?
So I'm going to come on Thursday, and I will this week actually be in New England. I'm doing Ravens Patriots, and that's pregame for CBS Sportsnet. I'm back on the sideline next week for Eagles Jaguars. Jaguars Eagles. Surprising
Should be
Jaguars.
a good game,
The
yeah.
Doug Peterson Bowl.
Eagles look great last night.
All right,
Okay,
thanks,
Aditi,
Aditi.
thank
Tim?
you. Very, very great insight.
Thanks for having me, guys.
As always.
Aditi.
All right.
See you next
All
week.
right.
Bye.
That when I watched that Prime game, that first one, I really did think. You've had that feeling where you see people turning on color TV for the first time and being like, things have changed just now.
Yeah.
I think
watching it in
everything's
4K?
moving- 4K and streaming. It's going to move to
it's
both
awesome.
those things.
It's
We're not-
awesome.
The days of us dealing with cable and stuff like that are almost over. The NFL is going to move in that direction within like 2 years.
What's funny is when you watch a game, like a highlight clip from standard def, just say the Cardiac Kids or the '89 Browns.
Yeah. Oh.
You can't even read
looks
the,
so awful.
the names
Yeah.
on the back of their jersey.
Right.
Now you can see the beads of sweat on their face. It's insane.
Now,
The
NFL's
4K looks like you're actually at the
It
game.
does. And NFL is going to probably, I would say within a couple of years, they're going to be like, why are we sharing this with Amazon? They're going to start their own streaming service, and we will all be like slaves to them on their streaming team, and we'll all pay for it. That's the worst part. That's probably how it's going to go.
Well, they've been, a little hesitant to go to the pay
They're
model.
nipping around the.
I'll pay for that.
Yep.
Give me that
Absolutely.
for every game.
Especially if
I'll
I can
pay
get them all in
whatever I need
4K.
to
And
pay
if
for
you
that.
don't, or we'll load it up with ads. That's the other thing. What kind of an experience do you want? Do you want no ads? Do you want
Right.
commentary?
Make it cheaper for people.
Cheaper
that,
for people who can't
Yeah.
afford, and you got to sit through the ads, I guess, that's how honestly capitalism works. So I guess that's sort of how it's going to go. And
But the broadcast, and I thought Al Michaels and Kirk, we talked about this
Awesome.
last Friday.
Phenomenal.
But it's like they've worked
It was
together
great.
their entire lives.
And I love that, sometimes I'll DVR the game just in case I got to go to the bathroom or whatever. So I can pause it here. But when it's on streaming, you don't
just
even
go
have to,
back and you can do it
Exactly.
And you go to any point in the game.
Exactly.
And
It's
instantly.
awesome.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I know.
It really is great.
Scary.
We got good bet, bad bet,
Yeah.
real quick, and then we'll bring in Jen for our first trivia
Okay,
Steelers
great.
Browns edition.
Awesome.
Let's see the standings updated after Monday Night Football, and we do have a number one leader in the clubhouse. It's one Jason Lloyd. He's one game ahead of J and G.
You're getting buried.
Polk. You didn't send your bets in, so you took 3 L's yesterday.
Oof.
But
For not doing it.
Even Jason looks surprised that he's winning.
Me?
That's great. All
All
right.
right.
So real quick,
Yeah.
let's go. Let's cut right to the next one. I believe it's Jay's card first. We have 5 prop bets on the offensive side for the game.
All right.
Jay took the under on
Wow.
all 5.
Well, I'm gonna tell you
Under
why.
across the
and
board.
I did it.
And we got to be quick here. We all got to be quick here.
I'll be 30 seconds. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm just not buying this team right now. I'm not buying it. There's a lot that needs fixed, and I mean, Brissett had a great game and threw for what, 227?
Right.
So I'm just, I was just bitter when I did it. So I'm like, nope, they're not doing that.
Yeah.
Nope, they're not doing that. No.
I have no faith in you for anything.
Angry
No,
bets.
no.
Angry bets.
So there you go.
Angry bets.
I hope I'm wrong on all of them, but
Brad, you took the over for 3 of them for longest rush, for reception yards, and for Njoku. Why those 3?
Well, I think they're going to continue with Chubb.
It says me, but it had
Go
Brad's
back to that.
Listen, we
Go back
know.
to that.
Oh,
okay, sorry.
Chubb is going to
We're
run
in
for
perfect graphic system here, guys. You got to understand. what
Chubb
comes
is going to
and
run
goes.
for what he runs for. I think they keep going to Cooper, and I think they're going to involve Njoku. I think it's pretty basic and simple, right? Everything was working except for the last 2 minutes of the game, and I will go back to this again. The game is not played. Football is not played in 58 minutes. It's a 60-minute game.
That's right.
Basketball is a 48-minute game. It's not a 44-minute game. It's not, right? You play it all the way out to
Play
the end.
every second like it's the only one in the
We
game.
got from Mike.
Polk, you took the over for first downs.
Oh, gambling, Mike?
They had 29 last game. They're only 20's the 20.5's the line here. So.
Yeah, I think like normal, it'll just be a mix of them disappointing me and them surprising me in different areas. And so those are the areas that I think they'll disappoint me in. Those are the areas that I think that they might surprise me in. It's their turn. That's why I went with it.
And Bull, let's see yours. You took the
Yep.
over for longest rush for Chubb. You also took the over in first downs, under on the other three.
Yeah, the over on the first downs is, I'm feeling good about that one because the Browns are not a quick strike team, which means they methodically move the ball down the field, which means they get more first downs. I think they will move the ball. I think it'll be a ton through the on the ground. I couldn't go with the Brissett yards. As Jay said, he was only like 15 over it last week, and that's as well as it played. I just feel like it's going to be an evenly balanced passing game, nobody getting too many yards this game, and I think Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are going to combine for a ton of yardage against the Steelers.
Amen.
Awesome. So we wanted to hit Jen Matthews at 12:30. It is 12:30 on the dot. Jen
Exactly.
Matthews now joins us for our first
Good producing,
edition
Mikey.
Yeah.
of Browns Steelers
There she
trivia.
is.
Hey!
She's our quiz master today. Hi, Jen.
Reunited, and it feels so good.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, let's see how
Absolutely.
well we know
I
the
wanna
trivia.
know,
Go ahead.
am I like subpar here? When do I get one of these Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show shirts?
Talk to Mikey.
I will.
Yeah.
I got you, Jen. Don't worry, I got you.
McNuggets is the keeper of the shirts.
All right.
Well,
I got you.
See, that's
it will look better on her than me, but there you go.
It will?
There you go. See, the advertising's already working, though.
Yeah.
See, it's people are loving the
Yeah.
shirts.
Yeah, you're right.
So
Let's go.
We're going to
Get
make
us
a
some
real
shirts.
push for the merch right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like
That's
that.
right.
I like that. So, Jen, before we start, I explained at the top of the show what we're going to do when you're on, and you're going to be on every other week. You're going to basically be the Alex Trebek for the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. You're going to ask trivia questions of games from the past between the Browns and their opponent that week. And this week is the Steelers, and I thought, well, wow, we should do really well on that. Those games have been so memorable. But Mikey McNuggets said that these questions, he doesn't know that we're going to get a single one right. So I don't know if he's underestimating
Jason
our knowledge
went 1
or
and 4.
if these
Jason
are
went
really
1 and 4.
hard.
All right.
Faith. No, I have more faith in you guys.
All
I
right.
believe it.
Well, there's 4 brains here. We should be able to come up with a right answer.
Yeah, do we have game show music for this?
Do you want the
Buzzers?
game show
I
music for
don't know.
trivia? We'll go dramatic
don't know.
music today.
Whoa. This is like well produced, Mikey. You're just man. Okay. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna ask the question, you guys are gonna give a group answer. Okay, a group consensus, and we will see where we are at.
Sweet.
All right. We ready?
you bet.
Let's do it.
Let's take it.
Okay, all right. Question 1. How many quarterbacks started a game for the Browns during the Ben Roethlisberger
God.
period, which would be 2004 to 2021?
Now,
How
do we
many
have,
quarterbacks started
we
a
have to
game
get it
for the Browns?
exactly right?
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Does it include games he may have missed during that time? Do we know?
Yes.
Okay.
Just his tenure. Yeah.
All right. So that's what, 17 years?
I got
So
19.
it's 34 games?
17.
No, because it's 4. You have to count 4 and 21. So, yeah, it is.
I got 19.
It's,
Do we even do the math here?
That's 17 years.
It is not just against Pittsburgh. It is just in totality.
17 years, right?
That's 17
oh,
years.
wait.
That's
That's
17
what
years.
we're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many quarterbacks started the game for the Browns during the Ben
I'm-
Roethlisberger?
No, it's 18. It's 18 years, I think, actually.
Oh, during that whole,
Yeah,
not
18.
just
Yeah,
against
18.
the Steelers.
No, the whole time.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
And Roethlisberger's tenure, so it doesn't
Right.
matter who they
Oh.
play.
So let's
How
throw a
many
number out to
quarterbacks the
start.
Browns have?
Okay.
I'm thinking probably 23.
I said 19.
I actually lean
Probably
more.
22.
I think in between there. I'd go in between those
You want
two.
to go 21?
I want to go in between 2.
21?
Okay, 21.
Now, do we have to get it right? It's almost impossible to get this right on the
I told you
number.
these are really hard. You guys laughed. You said, "Oh, it's not too
All right,
easy."
we'll
No,
go,
you know
let's go
what?
21.
Let's go 20. We go 21. We roll the dice on 21.
All right, let's
Lucky
go 21
21.
again.
All right, you guys are close, but the answer, 28.
Oh my
Browns
God.
quarterback.
That's even worse.
We should. That's not close. We were terrible on that. We
That's
should have been
That's
better.
our fault.
that
Actually,
just
Jay, you were leaning the right way, and then you let the guys talk you into going back down.
And
So-
we were terrible.
That was bad.
That
See,
was
I
embarrassing.
really thought that they went through some more early on from the 99 to the 2004. I thought we had some rapid succession
Yeah,
ones
but-
there. But then when you think about it,
but
we
still
took
Couch
Couch
started
for
a
a
bunch,
while.
yeah.
Right.
And so that's that was our fault.
That was a terrible job.
It
by
was
us.
a terrible job out of us.
Really, really bad.
It just say how bad the
First
quarterbacks were.
question is the warm up. You guys are going to get it, I believe.
All right, here we go. Here we go.
Okay.
Let's go.
Very kind.
Number 2, we are ready. Okay, since the Browns returned to Cleveland in 1999,
In the year 199.
AD.
That's actually my fault, guys. Not Anthony. That's on me.
Funny though.
Since the Browns returned to Cleveland in 1999, how many times have they beaten the Steelers?
6 maybe.
I don't even think it's that many.
So
is
let's
it?
think what the record was, what Ben's record was against
Right.
Cleveland. Now,
had
we
like-
know there were two in 21.
Right.
We know that there was.
Or in 20. We didn't beat them in last year.
No.
There was one in the first year we came back. We won the second game.
There was.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's one.
So
It's so sad that we can count them like this. It's our division rival, and we're just like, there
and
was
then
that
we
one.
went about 20 years where we won like 3 or 4.
Yeah, they beat them. There was one year they beat them somewhat recently when Roethlisberger didn't play.
Yes, I remember that.
I think it was a
remember that.
Charlie Batch game, I
Do
believe.
we want to
Yeah.
go about 8? Or do we? Let's start with a number, and then do we want to go higher or lower than 8?
Did you say 6 originally?
I did originally, but then I started thinking we beat them in the first year. We
Right.
beat them twice in 20.
In 20.
Right.
So that's 3
And
right there.
They had the random
And
game.
we are
that
counting the playoff win, right?
Yeah.
The playoff win in 2020.
That was a win
Yes.
against the Steelers.
Okay.
And we're counting our victory on Thursday.
But I
Or we're
think
not.
they
No,
only
let's not count that one before we have it.
Didn't they only beat Roethlisberger like 2
I think
times?
he was like 3 and.
I think 6 might be right. I don't know.
I feel like we got beat.
I thought 6 was low when I said
feel
it.
like
That's
we-
why I kicked it to
I
8.
feel like we got a couple more lucky ones against some backups over the years, but I'm not really sure.
I don't think so.
No?
6 or 7.
All right.
Okay.
What's final answer? What do you say, guys?
Final
Well,
answer.
I want to go higher.
You want to go higher? Let's go 7. Let's go 7.
Okay.
Oh, 9. 9.
All right.
All right.
So we're 0 for 2.
Whatever it is putrid. I mean,
Yeah, it is.
putrid.
All right, Mike.
Okay, here we go. Next one.
Mike is telling me we got to think faster because there's only 4 minutes left.
do wish that was
so
a
go
double
ahead,
digit.
Jen. Question number 3.
We got to do it quicker. All right, question number 3. What is the largest margin of victory in a Browns-Steelers game?
Ever?
About 2 points, probably.
This was the one Jason got correct, by the way.
Wasn't it 50? Didn't the Browns win a game against them once like 50-0 or 49-0 or 55-0
This is ever, right? Yeah, I think 51.
I think they beat them 50-something to
I
nothing.
think we beat them 51 to
Was
nothing.
it 51?
once.
I can't remember the exact
So
score
I'm going to
now.
lock that in as my final
51,
answer,
yeah.
unless you guys are sure I'm
They
wrong.
did crush them. No, I don't remember the exact number, but I
rolling
think
with you.
Okay.
it was 50-something to nothing. The Browns won.
I agree.
51. Let's go 51 nothing.
Jay, you are just magic. It is 51.
There we go.
1989, a 51
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah, that was a good Browns team.
All right, this next one. We're ready for number 4, Mikey. Okay. Only 2 voters voted against the Browns' move to Baltimore.
Oh, I think I know
Who
that.
were
Buffalo
the
and Cincinnati, right?
No,
No.
I thought it was Pittsburgh and
One's
Cincinnati.
the Roonies.
Yeah, I think it was Pittsburgh.
Oh, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati.
I
Right.
think Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. That's what
I
I'm
thought
going
it
to
was
go
Buffalo,
with.
but-
Unless you guys, are you sure I'm wrong?
I know one's the
no,
Roonies. but
Okay.
I know
assume.
for a fact one's the Roonies.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So there could it be Pittsburgh and Buffalo?
Plus
It
this
could be
question would
Pittsburgh
make
and
sense.
Buffalo,
I
but
could've
I
sworn it
want
was
to say
Cincinnati.
Pittsburgh and
Can I
Cincinnati.
interject real quick?
Yeah.
It is either Buffalo or Cincinnati.
You jerk. You know that's going to break
Let's-
these men.
let's
Okay, so
fight.
let's go
Let's
back.
fight
Let's go
over
back
it.
in time. Go back in time. I
Yeah.
would think that Cincinnati would
Be
not
motivated.
want that to go. They want the Battle of Ohio.
Right.
It's good for them.
Yeah,
So,
but Buffalo is like our what is the other option?
they're our Russ Bucket.
They are Russ
cousin.
Bucket friends.
Yeah.
They are. They're
And
like,
I could see them saying, "I'm standing up for Cleveland."
hey, we stink too.
I think
And
it's
we're-
I think it's Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, but I don't know. I wasn't here in '99.
Yeah,
95.
I'm going Pittsburgh and Cincinnati
Yeah.
too.
Final answer?
Let's lock it
Pittsburgh and
in.
Cincinnati.
Let's lock it in, Jen.
All right, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. The answer is
Oh no!
Now I hate Cincinnati even more.
Ah, that's terrible. My bad. I think I influenced you negatively.
no loyalty. No
What
loyalty.
a
I know.
jerk Mike Brown is.
Well, you know
Well,
what? We should have done the reverse math on that. He hated
Yeah.
Art Modell.
Yeah.
That's true because he fired his dad.
Yeah.
So he wanted them to move just so Art Modell would be vilified in this city forever.
Jen, thank you for exposing our ignorance.
Yeah.
No. We're just warming up, guys.
That
Okay,
was fun.
this last one. This one's a golden one. Okay.
Oh.
This 1986 movie starred multiple Browns players, Tiny Tim,
yeah.
and a
I know.
live.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got it. Yeah, it's
ahead.
Masters of the Gridiron.
Masters of the Gridiron.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
you guys,
there you go.
Snubbed by the Academy. Okay, I've got to tell you, I found a VHS. Like this is a
I don't
VHS.
think I've ever seen that.
Oh, we got to do a whole breakdown on it.
Was it better than draft day?
It was.
You know what?
Your
This was
dad's
snubbed
great
by
in
the
that, by the
Academy.
way.
Jen, where'd you get
Oh
that
my
from?
gosh.
United Way? What's that say? United Way at the bottom?
Yeah, it was a United Way fundraiser. So Mike Dad, Mike produced it. It is like sea-level quality. Like Mike Dad is wrestling.
United Way.
Weirdest thing ever. But I gotta tell you, when our kids get together, like Dan Fikes' kids and Mike Dad, they all refer to their dads by the names like Clay Rock and Barbarian and
Bindthor.
low
It's
level.
funny.
If they remake that movie, it's going to be huge. It's the second release is going to be way bigger than the first. I promise.
Master of the
I
Gridiron.
will say this: in doing research, 40,000 copies were made, and they all sold out. And it was a fundraiser for the United Way.
There
So
you
it was
go.
for-
Listen, that speaks to the Browns' large fan base
Yeah,
across
it
this
does.
country. The same one that was pissed
Yep.
on
Yeah,
Sunday.
that's right.
The quality of the product is irrelevant to us. We'll buy it
We're
regardless.
going to buy it regardless.
Low budget, low level quality. Okay, I felt like you guys. It was the opening round of this trivia. I'll
Yeah.
be back in a couple weeks. It's all gonna work out.
Yeah,
I
that
believe
was,
in
Jen,
you.
that was
We'll be
pretty good.
prepared. We'll
Jen,
be
I
better
enjoyed
prepared.
that. That was pretty good.
We'll
Thank
do
you,
better.
Jen.
And Jay, for you to get 51-0, the exact score,
yeah.
I'm
That was good.
pretty.
Listen, we didn't have many of those.
Yeah.
You locked those into your memory.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, you locked those in.
When you only kiss one girl in high school, you remember her name.
You know, and
Jen, thank you. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Jay.
I got
see,
Go Browns.
in 89, right?
Yeah.
The only thing I could get in Chicago was Chicago Bears games.
Oh,
you could get
wow,
a Browns,
yeah.
could get a Browns game, and there wasn't no streaming service going on.
You know, quickly before we turn the page to Guardians, I want to see if you guys remember this. Seeing the United Way, they used to have a really big partnership with the NFL. Do you guys remember the 2-minute warnings, Alcoa?
Yeah.
And the you make the call.
Yeah, you make the call.
Oh, yeah,
And they would
right.
run it at the 2-minute warnings
yeah.
of
I
games.
do remember
You
that.
make the
Yeah,
call.
yeah.
Alcoa presents
Yeah.
You Make the Call.
yeah.
That was fantastic. I used
By
to
the way,
love
in
those.
2 weeks they'll play the Chargers, so we'll get to do bad in Chargers trivia.
Oh,
then.
okay. I bet that game a couple of years ago around Christmas where tickets were going for $2. I bet that one's going to come up. So let's go bone up on our Chargers
Chargers, yeah.
trivia.
History.
It
All right.
can't be that much of it.
Lightning bolt.
All right, Bull, take us to Guardians because
Yeah.
I know you're as excited as I am on this.
So, yeah, like I said, I spent most of my podcast on it today. The team deserves more coverage and more credit. First of all, on Terry Francona, it's going to be interesting. Like, I'm a little biased, and I think he should definitely win Manager of the Year. However, you can make a really good case for Scott Service of the Mariners as well.
Sure.
They haven't been in the
Great job.
playoffs in over 20 years. But I think Francona is going to win it because the Mariners obviously have a lot higher payroll than the Guardians do.
Yep.
And what the Guardians have done to the Twins, they have just put them away with these last 2 weeks where the way they played with the
How about
Twins.
Ahmad Rosario?
Oh, yeah.
Ahmad Rosario, oh my God.
He's hit
they
out of
can't
his
get him
mind.
out. They can't get him out right now. He had the 8 hits in the doubleheader on Saturday. Yesterday, he stole 2 bases, hit a 3-run homer. And you know what was huge? Is that they didn't have to use Clase and Karinchak much in these last few games. So the guys should be fresh. They didn't use them. Both those guys were off Sunday and Monday. So now heading into the biggest series of the year against the White Sox, they have those guys fresh, which they needed that breather. That's huge. But the lineup's been great lately. You know, we talked, remember a couple of weeks ago, some of the guys were starting to panic about the lineup. I'm like, listen, ebb and flow. This is how they've been. Well, they're flowing right now.
Yeah,
and,
now let's hope that they don't go the other way.
and it could happen,
Because
but
if it
you don't
does,
want to
it's
see it these 3
ill-timed.
games. I don't love that Savali's pitching the first game of this series.
I don't either.
Dylan Cease has been their best guy. He may be the Cy Young. I mean, they have a huge – but think about this, Jay. The White Sox got all the pressure.
They do.
They got all the pressure.
We've got a
because
4-game cushion coming into this.
Only thing the Guardians can't have happen is a sweep.
That's exactly right.
Even if they lose 2 out of 3, not that any of us wanted to
They
happen.
pick up 1 game. That's it.
They're still 3 up.
Yep.
I hope we don't show that clip
Just don't
later.
sweep. Yeah.
I hope that clip doesn't come
I
up
know.
later.
I know because I look at
Yeah.
the percentages all year long. What's
Yeah.
their percentages to make the playoffs? Currently, the Indians, Guardians are at 89.5%.
Right. Yeah.
We just watched 99.9% go down the drain.
Yeah.
Sure. So this is nothing. I mean,
this is
you know,
a team with heart.
This is a team with heart that plays
Yeah.
well
And leadership.
And I got to tell you, I asked you about the crowd that was there at the end of the game. What was the announced attendance for Saturday's second game? Do you remember?
I'll tell you, I don't know. I don't remember the announced attendance, but I remember looking around and it was a really good crowd.
Good.
Like
Yesterday wasn't great.
Well, you don't expect it on a day game.
Right,
on a
But it's a
Monday.
good sign. I've been to a number of games this year where I've been disappointed, and I looked around and I actually commented. I'm like, I'm glad that we turned out tonight.
Good.
And they
Yeah,
did.
that's
Now
huge.
watching them slowly trickle, like the 13th, they're like, I just can't anymore.
I know.
The Browns play tomorrow. I
I
gotta
had
go
some
get my
friends that
rest.
left too. Yes, they need, and the final 9 games of the year are all at home.
Yeah.
3 with
6
Tampa
against
Bay,
the
which will be
Royals.
tough, and then 6 against the Royals. Hopefully the fans will come out. This team deserves it. If they go 10-5, which is not unreasonable, especially since 9 of their 15 are at home and 9 of their 15 are against the Rangers and Royals.
Right.
They go 10-5, they win 90 games.
I
this
tell
year.
And the magic number is now 12.
12.
Okay, so 12, and they have how many games left? 16?
15 games
15.
left.
So
A
just say
combination.
of the 15, say you go 7-8.
Right.
The White Sox just have to lose 5 games the rest of the year.
That's right.
So they've got to go 11-5.
Right.
They'd have to go
11-4.
Right.
Yeah, they can only
11
lose
and
4.
four. Yeah.
We're sitting.
Okay, so
we're-
I mean,
we're
I
sitting
can
in the
see
com-
why it's an 89% chance.
We're sitting in it's ours to lose, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
ours. It's ours
That's
to
right.
lose. But I'll go back to this. We talked about it this week. The teams take on the personality of the manager.
Yeah, they do.
Of the lead dog, right?
Right.
And I will tell you, Francona has done a masterful job.
Masterful
He's
job. Been fantastic.
And his demeanor, what was that, 2 weeks ago when he was going irate on
Yep,
the
got
referee?
tossed.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we don't have to look behind the crowd to see what happened behind the bench.
Right.
You're like, no. And
Well-
all the players saw it, right?
And not only that, Brad, but then you go to the next level. Who's the leader of the players? That's
It's-
Jose Ramirez.
it's Ramirez.
He's
He's
the
your best
talker.
player.
He's your best player.
And he plays
he
the
busts
hardest.
his ass every time. And he took less money. Yeah, throw that into the mix.
And all
he
those
wanted
young
to
guys
be
see
here.
that multimillionaire
Absolutely.
doing that.
Yep.
He never doesn't hustle.
And
never.
I'm glad you said that because as we talk about others, specifically the Browns, although we're on the Guardians, young people, when they see certain things, they emulate it. Right?
That's right.
So
Absolutely.
if you sit out
clay.
practice, you're telling the young person it's okay to sit out
That's
practice.
right.
It's
Jose
nothing.
Ramirez never wants to
Right.
be out of lineup.
He's always
ever.
there.
And if you take accountability, young guys look at that.
So I gotta be accountable.
And coaches, I played for a coach once who said, he pulled me aside and said, I need you to be my thermostat. And I said,
Yeah.
like, what the hell does
What
that
does that
mean? You
mean?
need me to be your thermostat. He said, you need to be the guy that sets the temperature in the room. And they will acclimate to that based on you.
Yes.
If you're sulking, the temperature in the room is going to go
Go down.
Yep.
If it's
That's right.
6-2 in the 7th inning and you're the top step of the dugout, the temperature of the room is going to go up.
Yeah.
Be my thermostat.
Absolutely.
And he is their
Yes,
thermostat.
no doubt.
And we've been talking about it. I don't know who the hell the Browns thermostat is.
And I know I'm putting the cart before the horse a little bit, and people in Cleveland get nervous when you do this. I get it, but I'm not living in my fears. So if the Guardians, like people have made a big deal about how the Guardians have not played well against some of the better teams, and I agree. However, this is not apples to apples, okay? In 2015, I'll give you one example. There's many, but I'll give you one. In 2015, the Cubs went 7-0 against the Mets in the regular season. 2015, not 2016. 2015, 7-0. Kicked their ass in 7 games. I don't think any of the 7 games were close. Mets swept them in a series in the playoffs. Why? Because in the playoffs, I could set my rotation exactly the way I wanted.
Yeah.
Things are different. In the regular season, if this were the playoffs, we wouldn't be pitching Aaron Savali in game
Not
one.
everybody can set their playoff rotation.
Well, that's
If
true.
you're fighting for a wild card spot and
That's
then you have
true.
to play
Yeah.
that wild card
Fair.
series now.
That's true, but I'm assuming the Guardians, if they clinch the division, will clinch it early enough where it's not the last day or
I
two.
would hope so.
I would think.
'Cause that's the
and then
best
they set the
advantage you can
rotation.
get.
And the Guardians, what's their strength? Okay,
Pitching.
their top 3 starters are reliable. Certainly their top 2 are very reliable.
And their bullpen's
Third
lights
guy's
out.
reliable enough. Their bullpen is awesome right now.
Yep. Yeah.
Even some of the fringe guys have all been really good. The lineup, yeah, there's some holes in the lineup, but at least right now, Straw's been decent. He's been playing well. Got me a couple stolen bases. I love you, Miles.
No, and he's hitting the hell out of the ball.
And he's been hitting lately.
At one point yesterday, he was 12 for his last 25.
And I'll tell you something else that's been under the radar. Early in the season, their defense was eh. It's gotten better. It's not great. It's not great.
I think it's great up the middle where it has to be.
Oh, it's fantastic up the middle.
Jimenez is a Gold Glove second baseman.
It's gotten better. Like in the corners, it's gotten better. And even first base, which is not
Naylor's
great.
gotten a lot better.
He's improved.
Yes, he has.
Right? He's gotten better as the season's
Watching
gone.
Quan on the field on Saturday was something.
Jimenez and Rosario in the middle are like, they share a brain,
and then you
those
got
guys.
Straw and Quan in the
Yeah,
outfield.
absolutely.
And Jose is tremendous at third, in my opinion.
The defense has gotten much
Let me
better.
comment on what you just said because you're apropos with this.
Yeah.
Right? The regular season and the postseason are two different things.
Two different animals.
things.
Yeah.
The other thing I want you to know is there's no pressure on the Guardians. We're not even supposed to be here. So
That's true.
if you come in higher ranked than me and you ran me through the season, you're supposed to run me.
Yeah.
All
That's
I
right.
need to do is get off to a good jump, and then
That's right.
guess what? Then the nerves come in, and then you're like,
And I get it.
everybody start playing a little tight.
You're
and
right.
You put yourself in the game. The thing that you have to be scared about the Guardians is this: pitching, managing. We're not gonna be mistake-led team. We're not going to do a whole lot of mistakes.
Right.
You got to play right against us.
Sure. Well,
right?
here's the key, and it hasn't been this team's strength, but lately they've been doing well in that department. Steve and Mike, can we put up the graphic, the 6 runs plus 6 run graphic again? I really wanted to hone in on
94
that.
on tag board.
This is an unbelievable stat.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, 6 runs is a lot of runs to score.
Yeah.
But to be 44-1 when your team scores 6 runs, that's the best in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
And look at the 2 teams that are
Houston
up
and
there.
the Dodgers.
The Astros and the Dodgers, and each of those have at least double-digit more wins right now than the Guardians
Right.
do.
And most teams are going to have a good, like even the
Well, if
White
you
Sox,
score
who are
6,
23rd, still have a good record.
You better
But
have a good record.
But,
Do you know what's the most shocking part of that thing, the whole stat, though, is? The Guardians have more 6-run games than the Astros. And we talk about this Guardians offense
that doesn't
being
make any
lackluster.
sense, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't make any sense.
And look how many the Dodgers have. The Dodgers have.
well, Dodgers have 60.
62.
I mean,
Yeah.
they have. We have 45.
That just means we score all ours at once in games usually, or we have big scoring games, and then we have a game where we score one
well,
run.
there's a lot.
I
of
am
games.
surprised that the Guardians have scored 6+ runs in 45
But do you
games.
know how
I wouldn't have
that come playoff time?
Right.
That is huge.
Yes.
And the way their bullpen has pitched this year, if I'm handing out letter grades right now, and I know that's dangerous because it's not over, but the bullpen for me gets a solid A, maybe even an A+.
Oh, yeah. I don't think there's any doubt about it.
Tremendous.
They've
But
been
you know-
outstanding.
But you know who said that? Lynn Barker told you that.
yeah,
He was
you're
on
right.
here
When he was
when-
in.
Yeah.
When he
You're
was
right.
when he was in a month and a half ago,
Yeah.
he
He
said
said
that.
that's the key.
Yeah.
He said that's the key
I mean-
because they got the bullpen.
You can shorten games. Get it
Right.
to 5 inning, 6 inning games.
And I think right now, the Astros are the overwhelming favorite in the American League, and they should be.
And the
they got a
Dodgers in the
great
National
rotation. They got a really good bullpen. Not as good as the Guardians, but it's really good.
And their
their
battle
lineup
tested.
is loaded
They're battle
defensively
tested, too.
Battle tested, no doubt. They're the overwhelming favorite. But right now, there may be sexier teams for general fans out there with bigger names, but I think the Guardians are right on par with the Jays, the Rays, the Mariners, and the Yankees. I believe that.
I agree I
I
agree
think they
too.
can beat any of those teams. Yeah, if they play the Astros in the playoffs, I want them to win. I wouldn't pick them to win. I'm not picking anybody to beat the Astros. Doesn't mean it can't happen. It's baseball. That's the great thing.
Right,
it's not
right.
the NBA
Right,
Yeah.
where
right,
when one team's much
right,
better, they always win.
right.
But against any of these other teams, but I understand why fans are a little antsy because they've been bad in the playoffs since 2016. They won the first 2 games in 17 against the Yankees. Haven't won a
was it.
playoff game since.
Yep.
But I'm all in on this team. I'm excited to watch them. I love the scrappiness and the toughness and the fight that they show. They're never out of a game. Never. There's never a game outside. The only game I can think of that was like they had no shot was that one game, the makeup game against the White Sox. It looked like they were dead. Remember last week?
Well, they waved the white flag.
They kind of did.
They knew they were going against Lance Lynn.
Yes.
And they had a call-up start.
Yes.
And
but outside of
But I was
that,
fine with that because what they were doing was setting their rotation for the
Right.
Minnesota series,
Right.
which they ended up taking 4 out of
Right.
5. If you look at the pitching matchups in this series, it's Savale. Savale's going to be a loss in my.
I mean, it
they
should
could pull
be,
it
but you
out,
never
but
know.
Dylan
It's a
Cease,
huge edge for the
he's
White Sox.
probably 1 or 2 for the Cy Young.
Yes.
Then you've got Tristan McKenzie against Lance Lynn.
I think
is
that's a
front of the-
wash.
I don't know. McKenzie's like 10 and 11 this year, I think.
Right.
Yeah,
He's got a losing record. His
but-
ERA is pretty solid. I was at the game at Progressive earlier this year, just about a month or so ago, when McKenzie had like 15 strikeouts. He threw 95 pitches, 75 were strikes. I cannot believe how much he pounded the strike zone.
I don't put much into the record
But
for
Lance
me,
Lynn's a
but
really
Lance Lynn's
good
really good. He's pitched great lately.
But Bieber against Cueto. Cueto's a guy that can give you a
He's pitched
no-hitter,
well.
or
Yeah.
he can get, he can get dinged.
He's been surprisingly good, but Bieber's been lights out. lately.
Bieber, the last 10 starts has been
Vintage
Shane
Bieber.
Bieber.
Yeah.
So I
Vintage
think
Bieber.
the key here is, I think, again, they're kind of waving the white flag. Tito is putting his horses at the back end of this series, primarily because he had to get through Minnesota first.
Right.
But between McKenzie and Bieber, you're going to win one of those. You should. If you do that, you only give up a game in the standings. You have a 3-game lead. And yes, you do have the Rays.
Well,
but
you're
you have
doing math.
6
You're doing
against
math.
the Royals.
And you also got the
year.
Rangers.
You got the Rangers,
they're
too,
not
that
good.
They should dominate that series.
What I like about what you're saying is it is basic math here.
Yeah, you can start counting wins.
We start counting wins and losses. Here
Yep.
it is. And it
That's
don't have
right.
to be all my wins and all my losses.
Yep.
That's right.
No, yeah,
and that's
yeah.
how I set
Very
my game on.
achievable.
This is how I walk myself into the playoffs.
Imagine how different you'd feel right now if we were 3 games down.
Oh, boy.
Of course.
That'd be a hard mountain to climb.
It's going to be an interesting test because they're facing, like you said, they're facing 3 good starters in the series because even Cueto, who's their, and those are their top 3 starters, Chicago.
Absolutely.
Cueto's been their third
Yeah.
best guy.
We got 3 games.
3.
But then in Texas, you're going to face John Gray, used to be with the Rockies. He's like a pretty solid starter. And then in Tampa Bay, I think you're going to face.
I haven't looked that far ahead.
I did look at it. I think they had Jeffrey Springs, who's come out of nowhere this year, had a
he's
great
been
year.
pitching well.
All their pitchers are good in
If
Tampa
we
Bay. All their
take 2
starters.
out of 3.
Oh, it's over if they take
if
2
we
out
take
of
2 out of 3, I would think that
it's over. The magic number's 8.
To a level that
Yeah.
is, I don't think I don't think there's nobody coming back from
But
it.
I do
I don't
think,
think so.
the Guardians, and I know they won't, unlike the Browns, they can't take their foot off the gas because
No.
I don't think the
No.
White Sox are going quietly in these last 2 weeks.
Until that number
Yes.
over the Guardian says 100%,
Yeah.
or there's an X next to their name in the
For the
standings.
clinched.
Even if it says 99.9, like
No,
it currently
yeah.
does for the Yankees, I'm not buying it.
I don't think
I'm not
that's-
buying 99.9 ever again.
I don't think that's in Francona's makeup. I think he'll play it all the way out.
I think they will win the division as long as they don't get swept. Even if they get swept, I still think they got a shot, but I think we'll all be very nervous if
they get swept. It's going to be a long last 2 weeks.
Yes.
Both
Think
Cleveland
that
sport,
can't
both Cavs, both Guardians and the Browns at the top of their division. Did you guys ever think you'd see it? Here we are. We're killing it, Cleveland. Positive Mike.
Great, man.
Positive
All right, there's 5 minutes left because I got to get out of here at 1. I got to.
Yeah, me too. I got a massage, baby.
I
Let's
gotta
go.
roll. Wow, I wish that was my appointment. It's not.
Stop.
Are you guys going together?
look.
All right, no.
No.
I'm doing the massage. That's what I thought.
Boy, you're tight, boy.
That's a skit. That's a skit right there.
my God.
That's a skit.
Yep.
So I'll probably blow on my final take, but. Bull, go ahead.
All right, so I just wanted to spend more time on the Guardians and more time on Terry Francona because, sometimes people think if you're critical of somebody at times, it means you don't like them or you're being a hater or whatever. I've criticized Terry Francona on occasion over the decade now that he's been here. He doesn't always get it right. Nobody ever does. But if you think about it, when it's not going well for the Guardians or when they've kind of fallen apart in the playoffs a couple of times, people have been really harsh with him. And to me, it's crazy. This guy is the best manager in the game. And I don't think people I think some people, the diehard fans understand. But I don't think everybody realizes how lucky we are to have this guy and the fact that he's wanted to stay in this market when he probably could have gotten paid more somewhere else many times. But this is what he wants to do. We always talk about, and we obsess on this with the Browns. We want guys who want to be here. They want to be here. Well, this guy wants to be here. When he's done in Cleveland, he's done. He ain't going to manage somewhere else. This guy's one of the greatest managers, not only now, to me, he's the best manager now, but he is one of the greatest managers, I believe, in the history of the sport. He ended a curse in Boston. He came to 1 win away of ending a curse here in Cleveland.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Well, but listen.
I know.
As bad as that was for Guardians fans, and I get it, it was still quite an accomplishment. Honestly, that roster, the way it had been devastated by injuries, had no business getting to the World Series. And people that have killed years later, Kluber and Andrew Miller, should be ashamed of themselves because those guys were shot. Well, what choice did they have? They had nobody else to pitch. It was remarkable that they even got there, even though it's heartbreak at the end. Terry Francona is a baseball freaking icon, and we should appreciate it more.
Let me tell you about the benefits of being booed. When I started doing stand-up, maybe 15 years ago or so, I was real bad, and I used to get booed quite a bit here and there. People can be quite rude, it turns out.
Seriously?
Since then, I've been booed a lot less over time, more because I don't perform as much as I used to. It's a numbers game. No, I got better at it. What you do is you get used to getting booed. You build a callus over time. When I started doing stand-up, I started emceeing about every other weekend at the Cleveland Improv when it was in the Flats, still in the powerhouse. which is an urban room. It was mostly black comics and a black crowd, and they can be, they'll let you know if you're doing poorly. They're happy to let you know if they don't like what you're doing. They'll let you know if you're doing real well, too, and that's convenient. But either way, they'll let you know. When I started doing it, I didn't deserve to be there, wasn't ready, and I would go out and get booed pretty regularly if they didn't like what you were doing. Now, when that happened, I wasn't like, how dare you? Do you know, this is my art, people. I got booed because I deserved to get booed at that point. I wasn't good enough yet. And it was going to take me some time in order to stop getting booed. Now, the hard part was, as an MC, that also meant that you couldn't boo and just leave. You also had to keep going back out and bringing the comics up. And it's not like they forgot that you from before. I'm like, hey, how'd you guys think of that guy? Like, boo, you again. I'm like, yep, it's me. Glad you remember. Let's bring out the next comic. And you also do announcements. So I'd be like, in honor of Cinco de Mayo, it's $5 off Corona buckets. They're like, boo, we still remember you. So I would get booed, and then I would go home, and I would try and get better because you don't want to get booed anymore. That's the whole thing. But I was never mad at the crowd for it. I was hired to do a job there, and I came up short. Now, I wasn't necessarily in the best position. No one came there to see me. They usually came to see Sinbad or Earthquake or something like that. And I just happened to be opening up the show, but I'm a part of that show. They were told they were coming to an entertainment experience, a comedy show. They presented me, and then I failed at my job, and so therefore I got booed. And I wasn't like, I didn't think it was my fault. I didn't think it was their fault or anything like that. I just tried to get better in the next game. And that's my recommendation to you, Mr. Garrett, is recognize that people who are responding that way feel like you're coming up short at your job. That doesn't mean they don't like you. That doesn't mean that they don't like what you've done in the past. It doesn't mean that they don't believe in you anymore. It just means this is how we feel that you're doing right now, and it's really bad, and we want to express that. And that's their right. And I don't think, I'd prefer that people didn't boo, but it's a reality. And trying to just yell at the people who are booing in response to that rather than trying to improve whatever you're doing that's making them boo is pretty silly. And so I would recommend, I can speak to the value of being booed because it does help you. Nothing motivates you to improve and to get them to stop booing you like being booed. So embrace your boos, Miles.
Very good.
Well said, Mike. Let me just, I'm going to come on the heels of that, but I want to tell you about when I was, when I played for the Pistons, I learned a lesson, right? So when I got to Detroit, which was the nemesis of my old team, the Chicago Bulls, I really didn't like the guys. I went to the team, and I was in the locker room. I was like, I don't trust any of you guys, right? And I learned a valuable lesson in my days in Detroit. I thought they were all just nonsensical characters. And I've come to find out they were pretty good guys, Isaiah Thomases, the Dennis Rodmans, the Bill Lambiers, Mark Aguirres. But the lesson I learned there, we used to have these team meetings. And in the center of it was team only, players only. And they'd have a big huddle at the center of the practice court. And Bill Lambier would lead the thing and say, I'm going to teach you what it means to be a Piston. And I used to be like, what the hell do you mean? What's it mean to be a Piston? I learned a valuable lesson because it wasn't just about being a Piston. It was about being from Detroit. It was about embodying the city of Detroit. And so when I bring it full circle here, I hold these things in front of me. If we can pan to this, Steve, this means something to a lot of people. It means something. And I want to the players of any sports franchise, just not the Browns, the Cavaliers, fans of the Indians, this means something to a lot of people. It's not the team. It's symbolic of this city. It's symbolic of what these people are here like in this city. When I see this Cavalier basketball, it means something to this people. It's just not the 80,000 that are in the arena or the stadium on Sunday, or the 22,000 are in Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse on a game day. It means something to, and the people only want one thing. We want you to understand what it means to be from here. And it's not about how much money you make, what your performance is. We want you to embellish and revel in what the people of this town are made of, which makes up the essence of being in Cleveland. So whether you're a Cleveland fan from the beginning or not, you're here with us, and you are our representative. You're our congressional representative. You're our U.S. senator. You're our candidate, right? This is who you are, right? And I'm not talking about just from the political side. I'm talking about you're embodying who I am. You're my voice out here. And what people didn't like on Sunday was that's not what I voted for. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. We wrecked the entire nation of Browns fans' feelings. You're going to redeem yourself on Thursday. You're going to have to do that. Right? And if you don't do it for yourself, do it for the people that you wrecked their feelings on Sunday. Right? I'm a card-carrying member, and I want some redemption on Thursday.
You going to let them down, Browns?
We just found our leader. There he is.
You go.
Right here. If nobody on the team's going to step up and do it,
we'll have him come in and brave
I vote for you.
Well, it only comes from the booze, right?
That is our shield.
This is it.
That's our shield.
I don't need a logo. I don't need a symbol. This right here, these little stripes. That's all I need to know.
Yeah. I've got a minute. I'll try to do it in less than that. I'm on the boo train too. I wanted to speak directly to Myles Garrett. We were hard on him yesterday. I've had 24 hours to settle down. I was hoping he would pull his comments back. I'll pull some of mine back. I still think it was wrong, but I want you to understand that this is family love, what you got. When you screw up, no one's quicker to tell you about it than someone who cares about you, your family. And look at it as a sibling relationship. We're your brothers. We're sitting there, and your sisters. We're sitting there for 3.5 hours. We've invested time. We've invested money. We want your best. We didn't get your best, so we let you know about it. You should be thankful that we care that much. If we didn't boo you, that would be a bigger problem.
We'd be in Miami.
We'd be another city.
Or the LA Chargers.
We'd be the Chargers. We booed you because we love you. You're part of us. We care about you. And I guarantee you this. I'm going to speak for the 60,000 plus fans that will fill that place Thursday night. When you guys run through the tunnel and come on the field, there won't be any boos. There'll be nothing but love. Nothing but love. Just make sure that's all we hear for 3.5 hours.
Good point, Jay.
Go get him, man. Go get him.
I will say, when Eddie Griffin's crowd was booing me, like in 2007, that was not because they loved me. They really wanted me. They wanted it to be over. They wanted me off the stage.
Yeah, that's not out of love.
No, different thing, but still.
They would love you to get up on out of there.
Worst heckle I ever heard, just so you guys know, next, I swear, that was the worst one out of everything I've heard.
God.
Because that was somebody saying, you're not even worth telling you why you're bad. I just want this to be over. I want whatever's next. I don't even know what's coming next. I just want it to be anything but you. That was my favorite heckle I ever
And one
got.
last thing before we go, Joe Thomas officially announced as a Pro Football Hall of Fame quarterfinalist.
He might have a shot. He might have
Who would
a
have
shot.
guessed?
Might have a shot. But it's officially official as of 3 minutes ago.
We've got to decide how we're tailgating that whenever that happens.
Because he's going in.
Oh, that's going to be bonkers.
We'll figure it out at a later show. We got to go. Jay's got to
See
run.
ya.
Paul's got to massage.
22-hour break. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll talk about how the Browns defense stops the Steelers offense. Thanks for watching.
Hey.